ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Cloud County Ground here in Essex. For the first game for the home side, what an occasion it is. They've been waiting long enough. Their opposition today, Gloucestershire, have played 3 matches and the home side is yet to get underway. So the crowd is very excited to see their favourites out there competing on a slightly colder day to what we have had in the last few weeks. It's been absolutely stunning here in the UK.
Open decision from the Fixtures end. Number 11, it's Captain Simon. And we'll be going to number 20.
variety in this opening over.
And a variety
He
he
didn't
won't
want.
like.
If you're a complete आप लोग हमारे चैनल को जो है सब्सक्राइब कर लीजिए और अगर आपको इस मैच के बारे में दोस्तों कुछ भी पूछना हो तो बेफिक्र होके
asked for a helmet to be brought out, so he'll be standing up. So Matt Carter from the pavilion end. It's a decent crowd again. I think there were one or two ticket offers available for this evening, so no surprise that folks have come along. It's always an attractive fixture, of course. They share a county border, Nottinghamshire and Yorkshire, so plenty of ventured south. Here is Matt Carter round the wicket from the pavilion end. That's short and it's pulled out into the leg side, and that's really, really good work by Matthew Montgomery, because that could have been one that he might well have worn had he dived further forward or indeed hung back, but he judged it nicely out on the fence on the Bridgeford Road side of the ground, and it's just a single.
Yeah, difficult those ones are they, where you're not sure whether to go for the catch or try and prevent the fall, but he managed to do both, so impressive stuff out there from Montgomery.
I think Yorkshire have only hit the ball 3 times and they've hit it straight to fielders. Here's Carter in to Dawid Malan, just drops it down in front of him. Matthew Carter will field off his own bowling. The 3 matches that Yorkshire have had so far, Live has had scores of 1, 4 and 24. Don't worry, he's a much better player than that. Notts will be hoping that this drought or semi-drought lasts for another evening. Malan turns this square off his hips. That's 3 without loss. Malan 43. He got a New Road Worcestershire at the weekend and 26 against Durham on Bank Holiday Monday. Brings Adam Live back onto strike. The Whitby Warrior, they call him, from the port of Whitby. Will take an easy single out to Matthew Montgomery. 4 without loss. Not really been a shot in anger.
No, not yet. You sense there's going to be some sort of release either way here, isn't there? There's going to be one sailing to the ropes, or Vikings could be one down early.
The 2 out are both on the leg side, and Malan backs away and then lifts it over the offside. There's no protection there. Colin Montgomery will have to go and fetch it, but there is just a little release of pressure, and Yorkshire double their score from 4 to 8 in the first over here at Trent Bridge. Notts Outlaws in the field, Yorkshire Vikings batting, and they do have their first boundary. Carter in again, bowls, and a little push and run from Dawid Malan. We're through 2 overs, 9 without loss. Here's Grace Ballinger.
Yeah, I mean, I think Notts will certainly be happy with this start. They've managed to go for only 1 boundary in the first 2 overs, and it's no surprise to see the Pakistani overseas Afridi coming on for a second over after only going for 1 run with 5 dot balls in the first over. That could be very important as he sets up the innings for Notts. Just quickly, you've got a game coming up very shortly here as part of a double header with the men playing against Lancashire straight after your game. So, you know, I know you've played here before at Trent Bridge, but the excitement of playing in front of a full house must be palpable. Here's Shaheen Shah Afridi. He's going to be bowling to Malan, who's on 6. Worked towards mid-wicket. Alex Hales does the fielding, and they'll come back for a couple of runs. Yeah, absolutely. Trent Bridge is one of my favourite, if not my favourite ground to play, to be honest. The atmosphere is always good for both the men's and the women's cricket, and yeah, we're on a decent run, so hopefully we'll be able to get a few in for our game. I think it starts at 11 o'clock on Sunday, before the men, as you say. Good work, Grace, getting the plug in. Afridi to Malan, who is on 8. Afridi to bolt him out the back of the hand, and LBW shout here. The umpire has a good old look at that. Our officials this evening, he said not out by the way, are I think it's Tom Lungley, looks like Tom Lungley, yeah, at this end, and Steve O'Shaughnessy at square leg. Tom Lungley, former Derbyshire seamer, O'Shaughnessy an all-rounder, predominantly for Lancashire, but also played for Worcestershire back in the day. 11 without loss. That one just going over the top, maybe? Yeah, just sense it might hit him on the thigh pad, I think, and don't think Malan's particularly small man, is he? He looks pretty tall from here. He's much taller than his batting partner, Adam Live, let's put it that way. One slip, Carter, here's Afridi in again, once more, just almost out of the back of the hand, and it's worked away onto the leg side out there. Colin Munro doing fielding, and Yorkshire are 12 without loss. Just hitting good lengths here, isn't he, Afridi? I think in T20 cricket, just the margin for error is so small, just a touch too full and you get pumped over your head, a touch too short and you're into the Smith Cooper stand. So
he's been very impressive, and it'll be good to see if he can hold this length.
Halfway through the third over. Here the buzz around Trent Bridge. They'll grow into the evening as the atmosphere builds. This one's worked away behind square, and again Yorkshire have picked out the fielder. Just clipped away behind square. There is Jack Brooks, his first involvement, former teammate of course of Adam Lythe. I'm sure he's been itching to get a game here, as we have new listeners joining us all the time. A reminder that Yorkshire won the toss, opted to bat first, and are 12 without loss in the third over. Shaheen Shah Afridi so far has bowled 10 deliveries, only gone for 4 runs. He comes in and bowls, and this one just dropped on the leg side. Might even have been off the pad. We'll have a little check with umpire Longley. Yes, he is going to tap his knees. That's the first extra of the evening. 13 without loss. Notts in their traditional colours of gold and green, but they've got this green sash, a diagonal sash. A little bit like, I think we've described it as a bit of a cross between a Miss World contestant and the Peruvian football team. Yorkshire in light and dark blue combination. Afridi to conclude this over, and this one's lifted away, but it will only fly down in the air, but reaches Samit Patel at third man for a single. More applause, warm applause for Shaheen Shah Afridi, who's very quickly become a firm fan's favourite here. He's bowled 2 overs, none for 5, and after 3 overs, Yorkshire Vikings 14 without loss.
I think it'll be really interesting to see what Mullaney does here, in the sense that Afridi's gone for only 5 runs, and it's very rare to see a bowler stay on for 3 and bowl all from one end in the power play, but you sense his bowling so well, he's looking dangerous all the time. He could go for a third here.
So here is Jack Brooks. For those of you that make a note of these things, Nottinghamshire supporters, it principally has been given squad number 70. Jack Brooks is the 96th player to represent Notts Outlaws in T20 cricket. Of course, a competition that began 20 years ago in 2003. Notts still have a survivor from that first season in Samit Patel, who's played more games in this format than anybody else, and he'll be itching to get a bowl and get amongst the wickets after he went without last night at Durham. Long old journey back for the Notts side last night, many of them not getting back to their beds before 2 a.m. this morning, so I would imagine it's been a fairly light practice day. So it is going to be Jack Brooks. He's had considerable success on this ground over the years in the red ball format. He bowls short, and his first one is pulled away. That's not a moment he'll remember. His first delivery for Notts Outlaws, just pulled away by Milan for a boundary. That was, well, maybe signs of nerves from Jack Brooks, but that was just a step and fetch it, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, wasn't his finest of deliveries, Jack Brooks, but we'll put it down to a loosener. Fortunately, can't really get away with those in T20 cricket, but sure he'll back on the money here.
Starting to accelerate here, Milan. Here's Brooks in to bowl to him, and he will take an easy single here, dropping it down on the leg side. 19 without loss. My favourite Jack Brooks stat, which I've only become aware of since obviously he signed for Notts this last few days, between 2011 and 2021, that's 10 years, he played 31 Blast games and didn't have to bat once. That's incredible, isn't it? That's like you. I mean, you're not getting many innings down towards the bottom there of the Blaze side, are you? But
no.
That's astonishing. 10 years without having to bat.
That is some stat. Where'd you find that out? Worked it out yourself?
Yeah. Oh yes. Yeah. I've got enough time on my hands to look at sad things like that. Brooks just getting his field right for Adam Lythe, who he knows very well. He's pushed an offside boundary rider out, but this one's hit by Lythe up to mid-off, fielded by Alex Hales, and a single is taken. 20 without loss. There were people, for whatever reason, I'm thinking of my good lady here, who chose not to listen to my commentary last night, but to look at the pictures that were available of last night's Durham. And this morning she advised me that Alex Hales was hobbling quite badly at the end of the game and just didn't pick up on that, as this one's driven crisply through the offside. Munro won't get there. Lovely shot from Dawid Milan. Moves on to 19-24 without loss. And so I arrived at the ground here today just a little alarmed in case Alex had not, but just a little bit of cramp. He batted through the inning. for his 65 not out, and as he went to do the television interviews, obviously he was hobbling a little bit, but nothing more than a bit of cramp. Brooks bowls, a couple of boundaries already in this innings, single taken to Dawid Malan. He moves on to 20-25 without loss. Vikings have got a reasonable start here. Afridi's kept them quiet at one end, but they've taken the runs so far from Carter and Brooks. Yorkshire lost in that opening weekend. A double header was played at Edgbaston, lost to the Birmingham Bears. Lyth comes down the track, he's hit it out towards Munro, but 7 or 8 yards to Munro left and over the rope for 6, which Colin Munro signals, indicates to the umpire. Not yet gone on the board. In fact, I don't think he has signalled it, Steve O'Shaughnessy, and now he does. It's a good, clean, crisp shot, and it was quite a harsh introduction to life as an outlaw for Jack Brooks. 6 and a couple of boundaries in that over. Yeah,
just slightly shifted the momentum of the game there, hasn't it? I mean, as we said, Notts kept the pressure on, and looks like it won't be Afridi having that third over like I would have liked to see, but total change in Vikings now 31 lost. Thinking of my game yesterday, Dave.
Was it the Vipers you played yesterday?
We did, yeah.
And that was where? At Grace Road?
At Derby, actually, at the Encore. And I must say, they were fab hosts. A really good day there yesterday.
Going to be Matt Carter to bowl the 5th over. That over from Brooks went for 17. Music just, I think, has been cranked up a notch. It was this place was absolutely bouncing on Friday evening. They're now asking the DJ to turn the music off. There we go. He has managed to do that. It's been a little bit more subdued and low key this evening thus far, as Matt Carter bowls his 2nd over, the 5th of the innings. Notts have had the wood over Yorkshire in recent times. In fact, they've won the last 6 meetings here. As Carter bowls again, single taken by Malan, drops it down in. Overall, meetings 21 Notts wins, 11 to Yorkshire, but here at Trent Bridge it's 14-4, and as I say, the last 6 meetings have all gone the way of the home side. Next ball is lifted down the ground, and it will just clear Shaheen Shah Afridi, but it didn't zip on and run away to the ropes as Adam Lyth was hoping for, and Afridi was able to chase it down, and a couple of runs to Lyth, 34 without loss. It's one thing for you to look out for, Shaheen Shah Afridi in the field, because he'd make a good javelin thrower. He hurls it an absolute mile as Carter bowls again, and that's a swish and a miss from Adam Lyth. Good work from Tom Moores, who whipped off a bail.
Good to see Tom Moores recovering from his injuries at broken finger.
Yeah, missed 4 county championship matches with that broken finger, but back now. He's been scoring some useful runs in the middle order for Notts in the first 3 matches. Carter in again, bowls, and once again an almighty mow from Adam Lyth, who just bottom edges it to Jack Brooks at short fine. Lyth 12 from 12. This is an un-Adam Lyth-like start. Malan's gone down to have a word with him, and what's he saying, Grace? Just ease yourself into it. Just help yourself to a single on the leg side, because there's one there anyway.
Just looks slightly restless, doesn't he, Lyth?
Trying to find the city centre. Carter bowls to him, and, well, he's just pushed this back to the bowler. Well bowled, Matt Carter. That is terrific stuff from Matt Carter in that over. Just 3 from it. 34 without loss after 5 overs. I think both sides will take something from what we've seen so far. Yorkshire have still got their openers there, both very capable players, capable of taking down any attack, but Notts will be relatively pleased that they've kept them fairly quiet so far. Let's see if that's how this continues over the next 5 overs as Colin Frey picks up commentary.
Thank you, Dave. Yeah, Yorkshire coming back very well over the last couple of overs after a very good start from Notts. Jack Brooks is going to continue, though, from the pavilion end. And he's in now to bowl to Malan, who's pulled him away for 6. Behind square leg, deep backward square sort of area. And Malan, Grace is getting going here.
Yeah, it's a pretty bold captaincy choice by Mullaney. keeping Jack Brooks on. I mean, he's a very experienced player with doubtless talent, but I suppose you want your captain to back your bowlers, and that's what he's done. But will it be a mistake from Stephen Mullaney?
Last over of the power play as Brooks is in again, and this one's played out onto the offside. Backward point, Shara Freedy does the fielding, and it's just a single. So Malan moves on to 28. It has 12. Yorkshire 41 with Outlaws under cloudy skies at Trent Bridge with the floodlights shining down brightly. Here's Brooks again, and Lyth has skied this. That's gone miles up in the air, and Carter's waiting underneath it, and barely had to move and takes the catch, and Notts have their first wicket. Lyth wanting to get on with it, wanting to try and take on Brooks, and just got top edge on it that went miles up in the air. And Carter, although he didn't have to move very far, and they're coming down from that height, you have an awful long time to think about it, but he took it well, took it cleanly, and Yorkshire lose their first wicket, 41 for 1.
Absolutely, yeah, harder than they look, those catches, aren't they? He's just in the air for such a long time, and he almost didn't have to move. You can see the relief on his face when he takes the catch, Matt Carter, and gutsy decision by the captain, Stephen Mullaney, and it's paid off for him. Jack Brooks with his first wicket for the Outlaws. Adam Lyth has to depart for 12.
Understand why he was playing the shot he was trying to play in the last over of the power play.
Absolutely, yeah. Just mistimed it, and on another day was just a fraction later on it, and it would have gone straight into that Smith Cooper stand. So it's just the way of modern cricket, isn't it, Colin?
It is. He's gone for 12. Adam Lyth. Will Luxton is the new batsman to join Dawid Malan, who is on 28. And Brooks will continue from the pavilion end. Luxton, 20 years of age, making his Yorkshire debut. Keithley. And he's going to prepare to face his first ball from Jack Brooks. And he has a swing and a miss, and it goes through to Tom Moores.
Yeah, slightly nervous start that from Luxton. Just got a little bit caught in the crease there, not a lot of foot movement, but I suppose you would be nervous, age 20, debuting. Pretty decent crowd in here at Trent Bridge.
Yeah, big stage in T20. Far more eyes on you in T20 than in the Championship. Certainly at the ground itself. Here's Brooks, and this is playing quite nicely to cover, and there's no run because the fielding was done very quickly and smartly by Matthew Montgomery. It's a big moment for anybody making their county debut in whatever format it is. As Grace was just saying, there is a good crowd in at Trent Bridge, not quite sold out, a few empty white seats as Brooks is in again, and Luxton's got this one high. There's another steepling catch to take, and Luxton is gone. Running round from mid-wicket, Colin Munro takes the catch. This is another one, just like Carter's a few balls ago, that went miles in the air, and this time Munro had to make up a little bit more ground to get there, but still was planted underneath it to wait for it to come down, and again safely pouched, and Yorkshire are 2 down, and Luxton goes without scoring on his debut, and this is turning into a good comeback from Jack Brooks.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, he's certainly stepped up, and he's bowled terrifically after a difficult over where he just got his lengths wrong, to be honest with you, and he's turned around this power play here. I reckon after the 5 over mark it was pretty in balance with no wickets down for the Vikings. However, 2 wickets here, and it's really pushed it into Nottingham's favour here.
Yeah, very good final over. That in fact was the last ball of the over, last ball of the power play. 2 wickets in that over, and they went for just 7 runs off that Jack Brooks over. So the power play ends for Yorkshire on 41 for 2. And the skipper has decided it's time for himself from the Ratcliffe Road end, with Yorkshire 41 for 2.
Handy 3 for yesterday, was it, from Mullaney?
It was, yeah. 3-4-28, I think, from memory. As Mullaney starts his run, stops his run, and then he's in again to bowl his first ball, and this is just turned away onto the leg side by Milan for single. Tom Moores has run out all the way out to the square leg umpire to do the fielding. Long hole run for the wicket keeper, joined by Luke Fletcher.
Hello.
Of Nottinghamshire.
Hello,
Good evening.
Fletch.
How are we all?
All right, how are you?
Best view in the house up here, isn't it? I love coming up here. Good. Not as good as Jack Brooks by the look of it. He's buzzing, isn't it?
It's a fair old over,
Absolutely
wasn't it?
buzzing.
Yeah, that's a comeback.
Proper highlights package that. Runs, wickets. It's a good pitch.
Always good pitches here, aren't they?
Generally, yeah. Bowler's graveyard.
Too good for the batters.
Got to be a good bowler to play here, you know.
Here's Stephen Mullaney, and he's in to bowl to Shan Masood, who's the new batsman. This is turned round towards fine leg, and the fielding is done quickly. Dot ball, and the crowd are into it now after those couple of wickets. You can always tell, can't you, when they're applauding dot balls.
Yeah, they're all in. The atmosphere looks quite good now. I reckon there's a few late comers, but it's filling up now, isn't it?
Here's Mullaney in again, and Masood just backs away from this and plays it up towards long off. Afridi does the fielding, and they go through for a single. So I said, how are you? And you said you're all right.
Yeah.
But
yeah, obviously not. I'm not 100%,
not
but
100%,
I'm on the mend, yeah.
How many percent?
At the minute, probably about 14. So I've got a long way to go. Yeah.
That's a long way. Here's Mullaney, and he's into David Milan, who's played this one up to long on this time, all the way along the ground, and fielding's done by Alex Hales.
First time out the house in 5 days. I've just been watching Netflix and Forest highlights of the whole season, so I've heard your voice a lot this week. I love it.
There's been some
Premier League.
There's been some ups, there's been some downs.
Oh, it's been amazing.
A tense whole season. Here's Mullaney again with Yorkshire 44 for 2, and this is just dug out again up towards long off.
I'm just itching to talk Forest with you, but I know people want to know about the cricket at home, so I'm going to go in a minute, but I'm just dying to speak Forest with you.
We'll have to do that off mic.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Milan on strike on 30, with Masood on 2 at the other end. Yorkshire 45 for 2. It's another quiet over, and this one is just defended back to the bowler. And Grace Ballinger is here as well alongside us. Grace, that's a very good start from Stephen Mullaney as well. Notts going well here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, run rate's just down massively after that big Jack Brooks over. Obviously, he pulled it back himself, taking 2 wickets, and yeah, the run rate below 6.5, you'd say. Notts will be very happy with this start and a good contribution from all the bowlers.
Samit Patel's going to come on from the pavilion end. So a bit gutted to be missing out on all this, Luke, this year.
I hate it. I'm such a bad watcher, especially this format. I mean, the timing of the surge is awful, really. You know, as players, you look forward to this. You know, getting a full crowd at Trent Bridge, and yeah, it's very, very annoying. But you know what? It's part of the trade. Being a fast bowler, these things happen, and you got to get your head on and recover as quick as I can. So it's nice to see the lads doing well there.
Here's Samit Patel then. Left arm over the wicket, and that's played into the block hole, almost down into the ground by Masood, and then just sort of sits there. Just for a second it looked like it might dribble back towards the stumps, but it didn't. It's a dot ball though from Samit, and this time Masood is down the pitch a couple of paces, hammers Samit down the ground towards the pavilion, and a couple of bounces away for 4. Yorkshire on to 49 for 2, Masood on to 6. Was it just did you sort of have to make the decision, Luke, to sort of sacrifice the T20 and just get it done?
It was the right thing to do. I mean, I could have hobbled through it, but what I didn't want to do, Samit's in and it's clipped out by Masood on the leg side, and Montgomery's in with a one-handed pick-up. That is lovely fielding. What a smart man this Montgomery is, eh? I'm just doing your job here.
I was going to say, you don't need me, do you? I'm going to have a rest.
Yeah, no, I had to do it. It was what I didn't want is to play and play poorly and let the side down. So yeah, I mean, it was in the end it was an easy decision, and I think the right decision. So
as you say, it is one of those things, isn't it? As a fast bowler. Here's Samit Patel, and this is turned off his toes by Milan. Out on the onside, behind square, and they trot through for a single. 51 for 2. Shan Masood back on strike. Patel into him. This is well pitched up and dug out of the block hole. And again, you can...
Under pressure here, Yorkshire.
Yeah, appreciation from the crowd for Notts who've, I was going to say turning the screws, but they've been on really since the opening overs. This, though, is hoyed over the top by Masood for 6. Closest fielder to it, couldn't get anywhere near it. As this sailed over his head and away for 6. Good end to the over. Just umpire at that far end, Steve O'Shaughnessy, just making sure it was 6.
Yeah, I think that was easily 6 from up here anyway.
It looks a long way over the rope.
You could tell by the sound, couldn't you? The sound of the ball off the bat. He's a good player, Masood. He's quite an orthodox player, but he just hits the ball so cleanly. It's difficult to bowl at. And Milan at the other end, we know a lot about Milan. Obviously played with him at the Trent Rockets, and I think that's the best form he's been in. So this is it's a big partnership for Yorkshire, but I think Notts have got a pretty good hold on this game so far.
57 for 2. Stephen Mullaney into bowl 2. Milan, oh, that's big, that's huge. That is over mid-wicket and away into the Fox Road stand for 6. Milan picking up where Masood left off in the previous over. Positive over the opposite boundary, but the same position, if you like, cricketing wise.
For Yorkshire to post a good total here, these two need to do the bulk of the work. I don't think there's, without any disrespect, you know, there's not too many left as good as these two. These two are going to have to get the biggest partnership for me.
Here's Mullaney in again, and this is played out onto the onside, fielded in the covers by Lyndon James. I think it's the first time we've mentioned him tonight. Just a single, 64 for 2. It's a good point Luke makes, great, isn't it? That Notts kind of need one of these out, you'd think. Here's Mullaney once again, and this is slapped away by Masood onto the offside. Running around from long off is Shaheen Sharafridi, and it's a good piece of fielding.
Yeah, I mean, I think Notts will be relatively happy with where things are at the moment. The run rate's still under 8. It's pretty contained stuff, but as you say, either of these could get away and it could be pretty dangerous, but at the same time they're going to need someone to bat with them, so 1 wicket could really change things.
65 for 2 as Mullaney is in once again, and Milan sort of waits this one, waits for it to come onto him, plays it off the back foot.
Right, I'm going to it because I've got to get back down to my family. But good to see you all.
Thanks for coming up.
Thanks for having me.
Nice to see you,
Luke.
Luke.
I'll see you through the comp, I'm sure.
Get well soon. It's Luke Fletcher, Notts fast bowler, out of action for a good few weeks. 14% fit, he reckons, so there's a fair amount of work to do. Good luck, Luke. Did you say 14 or 40? 14, you said, didn't you? How many percent fit you were?
I reckon I've got a long way to go.
A long way to go. Keep going. As Yorkshire on to 6 for 2. Stephen Mullaney has a ball to come in this, the 9th over. David Milan is on 39. Mullaney in over the wicket. Milan plays this bit uppish, but it's pretty safe. It's well wide of Lyndon James. And running round on the cover boundary. Here's Joe Clark again to field. It's the single to end the over. And Yorkshire 68 for 2 at the end of 9.
Tell you what, that's a pretty pessimistic number from Luke Fletcher, that isn't it? 14.
It's also very specific.
It's very specific. He came in, I thought he looked pretty high spirited, and then he came out with 14%. I thought, oh dear. It's a shame to see him on the sidelines. He's
isn't he? He's
fine bowler.
He had his crutches up here, but I saw him with crutches earlier. It's, never a nice sight. And Matthew Montgomery is coming on to replace Samit Patel at the pavilion end. I think Samit only had 1 over, didn't he? Yes, he did. So he's got 3 more up his sleeve as Montgomery prepares to bowl to Milan. 68 for 2. And Milan is playing this very circumspectly, just prodding it out onto the onside for a single. Mullaney fields. 69 for 2. As we've been saying, a good crowd in. But But here's Montgomery again. Masood plays this one off his legs up towards the mid-wicket boundary, and there's a couple of fielders converging on it. There's a dive and a flick up for Joe Clark to throw it in.
Handy bit of fielding out there by Lyndon James, and it's the conventional off-spinners field for Matthew Montgomery here.
71 for 2. Masood plays this one up towards long off. That's Clark again, this time running in 10-15 yards from the boundary in front of the pavilion, and throws it back in single. Malan on to 41 from 28 balls. Shan Masood 12, he's on to 18. Yorkshire 72 for 2, having won the toss and chosen to bat. Montgomery is in, and this is off the back foot, pulled away square on the offside, and good piece of fielding again from Notts. This is Colin Munro out in front of the Fox Road stand, point boundary. And Masood on to Malan on to 42, and this next one ties up Masood, who's trying to heave him away onto the onside. Moores whips the bails off, but Masood is in his ground. 73 for 2, 5 off the over so far. And this is the last ball of it. See if Matthew Montgomery can get out of it. And again, that's the shot from Masood out towards the mid-wicket boundary, and Lyndon James sees it roll into his hands this time, so it's just a single for Shan Masood. Halfway stage of the Yorkshire innings, Masood 19, Malan 42, and Yorkshire, after 10 overs, are 74 for 2. There'll be a word from Grace Ballinger, and then commentary will continue here on BBC Radio Nottingham from Dave Bracegirdle.
Yeah, that was a very handy over by Matt Montgomery. He's been brilliant for Notts this year with both bat and ball, and you just sense that they're a little bit under par here at the halfway stage, Yorkshire, but maybe a big innings from Malan could really turn the tide.
Off spin from both ends then. Matt Carter bowls to the left-handed Masood, who forces this one through deepish mid-wicket for 4. It was just dragged down short from Matt Carter, as he's often prone to do the first ball of a spell. He very often drops one in halfway down, and Masood was all over that. Look on your face, Grace, when you turned to your right and saw that the 6'19" man mountain that is Luke Fletcher had slid into my next year was an absolute picture. It's like a whirlwind, isn't he? He came, he delivered, he went. Carter around the wicket, bowls and driven into the offside, and Lyndon James does the fielding. I've not yet grilled him actually over the operation, and did he go through all the the various bits and pieces that they do when I'm presuming they gave him an anaesthetic, full anaesthetic, I don't know, but been interesting. Kept him quiet for a bit anyway, as this one's hit down the ground by Masood for a single, fielded by Hales. 79 for 2.
One of the better blokes around, isn't he, Luke Fletcher? He's always up for a chat when see him about in the winter.
Yeah, he's having a testimonial year, events coming thick and fast. If he's one of your favourite players, you can log on and get all the relevant information and attend one of his forthcoming events. 80 for 2 now, as Dawid Malan, with more than half the runs, moves on to 43, just dabbing this down on the offside. Carter in his 3rd over, none for 17. Next one's driven into the offside. Oh, and Lyndon James has taken his eye off the ball. A misfield there. And they will, I think, have just pushed it and hoped to get home for 1. And in the end, they got an easy 2 with Lyndon James right on the 30-yard discs misfielding.
I think it might be Notts' first misfield, actually. They've been pretty impressive thus far.
Carter balls to Masood, former Derbyshire skipper, of course. Didn't get too many last year, if memory serves. His visits with Derbyshire, gets a single here. He'll keep strike. So that's 11 overs gone, and 83 for 2.
Just livening up slightly, you sense, Fletch, the crowd.
Got to be looking, you'd imagine topside of 180, Grace, aren't you?
Yeah, I reckon so. Only 2 wickets down. That's what they'll be pushing for with 2 Two set batters in here, both striking at well above what, 125.
I don't think sort of over exaggerating it to say that probably the most expensive bowler, the runs they've taken and the easiest they've found was Jack Brooks, yet he's got both wickets. This one from Matthew Montgomery down the leg side. Masood had a swish at it, missed it and went through to the keeper. Just pulled his figures back with those 2 wickets in 3 balls, didn't he, at the end of his second over. Up until then he'd gone round the park. Montgomery bowls, and this one has gone out of the park. Big blow by Shan Masood. Away on the leg side, the ball clatters one bounce into the railing in front of the William Clark stand, away to our right. Tom Moore's the wicket-keeper, has obviously spotted something because he's raced down to the far end to have a word with young Montgomery. It's 89 for 2.
You just wonder when we'll be seeing Alfredi back into the attack here. Dave, will he be saving him for the death, or inarguably the best bowler today, will he be trying to take a wicket now?
A couple of matches he's bowled 18 and 20, and last night he bowled over 17 and 19. Another one out into the leg side, that's just going to fall in front of Lyndon James, and they take a single. Just needed, from the Notts perspective, just a little bit more on that from Masood, and it would have just sailed comfortably into the hands of Lyndon James. It fell about 8 feet in front of him. Montgomery round the wicket. The 2 off-spinners bowling because 2 left-handers are at the crease. This one's just pushed on the leg side. Montgomery, 23 years of age, does the fielding of his own bowling. 91 for 2. They're applauding. It must be the 50 partnership. It is indeed. From 34 balls, and Shan Masood has made 34 of them. This one is hit into the leg side and should be absolutely meat and drink for Lyndon James, and a wicket, an important wicket for Notts there. Matthew Montgomery gets rid of Shan Masood for 34. He absolutely picked out his fielder. Lyndon James just didn't have to move a muscle, and that misfield of the previous over long forgotten. 91 for 3. Masood out for 34.
Yeah, that could be a pretty big wicket for Notts, you sense, and you also sense that might have been what wicket-keeper Tom Moores went to speak to Matthew Montgomery about. There was a big celebration from Tom Moores. He almost ran down the wicket like he'd taken the wicket himself. So
what, bowl one so you can get a catch at deep mid-wicket?
I reckon so. I reckon it was something about that. I mean, he did it over there before, hadn't he?
He had indeed, yeah. That's going to, you'd imagine, just halt Yorkshire's progress. Although, having said that, David Visa coming to the crease, been all around the world many times. David Visa played for South Africa, and also Namibia is his homeland. Has played quite a bit in the UK with Sussex. Has now taken up the mantle of Yorkshire's second overseas player alongside Shan Masood. Generally find him bobbing about in the lower middle order, but they've bumped him up to number 5 here just to try and get a little bit of an acceleration on, and to get Sir and Malan both going hard at it, Notts will be a little worried, but they'll be very, very pleased to get rid of Masood. Just Montgomery's second T20 wicket. This just his 6th match. Played a couple of games in South Africa back in 2018. Not really considered as a white ball player since then, but he's played in all 4 of these Blast matches for Notts. As I say, that's his second wicket, and he could have had a third there. That has been sliced by Visa off the outside edge, and has between Afridi and Brooks and away for 4. That was so close to finding one of them. False shot, 95 for 3 at the end of 12.
Yeah, you really sense Visa's going to go here, as you say. Been put up the order, probably given a bit of a licence, and as a lower order batter, that's just what you want to hear, isn't it? Stick your pads on. Just go have a bit of fun.
It's the voice of Grace Ballinger, who's part of the very successful Blaze side, going well in both the Rachel Hayo Trophy competition and the current Charlotte Edwards Cup. Lots of wickets this year, lots of celebrations as well that we're seeing. A little bit of a social media phenomenon with those celebrations.
I was just happy I bowled a good ball, to be honest.
It's going to be Lyndon James to
bowl the next over, the 13th. 95 for 3. Visa and Milan at the crease. Still some very decent players to come. Johnny Tattersall, the wicket-keeper batter. There is Lyndon James then. To Milan, who drives through or into the offside, and Joe Clark will do the fielding. 96 for 3. Tattersall may come next. Jordan Thompson's a punchy middle order hitter. Matthew Revis. Ben Mike, who of course has Trentbridge links. His dad Greg used to play for Notts in the 80s and 90s. And as we get lower down the order, Dominic Bess. It's not that long ago that Dominic Bess was playing Test cricket for England, and Jaffa Chauhan, the young leggy. 96 for 3. James Devisa. Down the leg side and wide, called. Is that the first of the evening? We've not had too many.
That. Yeah, first wide or no ball. I think there's been one leg by, but maybe one or two. Yep, 2 extras on the scoreboard.
Little lapse in discipline. Really, you don't want to bowl any more than 6 in an over, do you?
Not off that long run that Lyndon James has got.
T20 Blast North Group game here at Trentbridge. Notts Outlaws versus Yorkshire Vikings. Next ball cut to backward point. Matt Carter will greatly hang on to the ball, and there's no run there. 5 times in the series of games between Notts and Yorkshire, Notts have rattled up more than 200. 4 of them here at Trentbridge. The most was 222 for 5. That was back in 2017, and they got there with a little bit of help from Alex Hales, who scored a fine century. Lyndon James bowls again, pulled out to leg, but again he's picked out. Fielder Joe Clark once more at deep mid-wicket, and just a single. 98 for 3. Halfway through the 13th over. So Stephen Mullaney switching it around as we came out of the initial power play last night, the match at Durham. Obviously different opposition, different surface. Stephen Mullaney brought himself on and bowled his 4 overs straight through. As I say, a very different surface this evening as Lyndon James bowls a ball that presumably, Grace, would have been a slower ball because the batter Milan played all around it, and it bounced again before reaching Tom Moores.
Yeah, looks like he's just bowling a few cutters here. Lyndon James trying to get hit out to his sweepers, maybe playing a bit of a run conserving role, just running his fingers over the ball, so it seems.
7 different bowlers used so far, and this is just the 13th over. So Mullaney certainly switching it around. Next delivery on its way and driven down the ground. Will be fielded by Afridi, and there is that speared in throw, bounces it in ahead of Tom Moores. It's a little frustrating if you bowl an absolute gem of an over and the skipper comes over and says, right, have a blow, or doesn't even consult you in that, just says, right, you next, because you're always switching and chopping and changing.
Absolutely fuming. I'll tell you after, it's something that I don't like that much about the modern T20 game. If someone's bowling well, keep them on.
99 for 3. Visa is on 5, and this one will bring up the Yorkshire 100 with a single down the ground to Visa moves on to 6. 100 for 3 after 13 here on 5 Sports Extra and BBC Radio Nottingham. And many of you I know like to follow the BBC commentary on the live stream as well. There are pictures available via the trentbridge.co.uk website, the Nottinghamshire County Cricket Club website. I understand some of your teammates here, aren't they? Have the Blaze got a box this evening that you're missing out on?
We have, yeah. Very good of Notts to give us a box today. A few of the girls are down on the first floor, just below. Popped in and said hello before I came up here, and yeah.
Who's here? Give them a name check.
We got Catherine and Sarah Bryce, our wicket-keeper, and our all-rounder, Beth Harmer, Ella Claridge, Teresa Graves.
Skipper not here, Kirsty?
I think she's been busy today, Miss Gordon.
It's going to be Samit Patel from the pavilion end. Bowls to the right-handed Visa. I'm sure this pair will have come into direct
contact somewhere around the world. Samit Patel and David Visa, if there's a T20 franchise tournament going on in Bangladesh or Sri Lanka or Pakistan or Australia or New Zealand or South Africa or Zimbabwe or West Indies, Samit Patel and David Visa will be playing in it. I can guarantee that. There's Patel, bowls now. Malan just helps it out onto the leg side. There's a single taken, 102 for 3. I wonder if Dawid Malan feels he should be down at Lords getting himself ready for Test cricket this year. I think if maybe from the outside he maybe looked as if he was sort of tailor-made for the modern variation. The Baz ball, it's going to be a leg by here, down the leg side, 103 for 3. Talked about all these franchise tournaments. This one's the best, isn't it? This one's the best. The original, the best. The T20 Blast started in 2003, and amongst the players in that very first year, one Samit Patel, who's bowling now to the left-handed Malan, who's on 47, and with a nice cute. Oh, he's been denied a run. It's a lovely, cute deflection down the leg side. He has got a single, but I think he was expecting probably to be his 50 there with a boundary. It was a really wonderful diving stop to his right by Matt Carter, who's another one who's about 6'14". Huge giant of a man, and a brilliant stop. Here's Patel into Visa, and he's hit it in the same direction to Carter, and this time misses it. The good and the bad of Matthew Carter summed up there within about 25 seconds. An absolutely brilliant diving stop that saved 3 runs. They got 1, but it should have been a boundary. And then the next one, well, it shouldn't have been any at all, and he took his eye off it, went straight through his legs, nutmegged him for 4.
It's just the nature of cricket, that, isn't it? The first one really was an impressive stop.
Samit will be fuming. He's in again. Bowls. Oh, now he's bowled a wide. Always something happens after a drop or a misfield, and it's usually not very good for the bowler. 109 for 3, and there are 6 overs and 1 ball left in the innings as Patel bowls again, driven down the ground high. Should be an opportunity, and that's been gobbled up, and Samit Patel has got his 200th T20 Blast wicket for NOTTS OUTLAWS. Many congratulations to Samit Patel. Danny Briggs is the only other player to reach that landmark. He's still going. Samit's only 10 wickets behind him, but his 200th wicket is David Visa, caught by Joe Clark. And the celebrations, I think, from Patel indicate that maybe he was well aware of that statistic. Samit's usually all over stats like that, and 21 years of T20 cricket in this country, Samit Patel has become only second to reach 200 wickets.
Well, I think the celebration was totally fair. That's a brilliant achievement, and a big wicket for NOTTS as well. Hats off to Samit Patel. He's just been taking wickets for NOTTS for so many years, nearly as long as I've been alive, which I'm sure that wouldn't be a great stat for him to hear, but really, really impressive stuff.
Funny enough, in that first season, 2003, he only played as a batter. So it wasn't until 2004 when he got his first wicket. By then he developed into a fully fledged all-rounder, and his first wicket was here on the 9th of July 2004 against Derbyshire, and it was a fella by the name of James Bryant. And with all the best will in the world, I can't remember James Bryant at all. I wonder if Samit can, but his first wicket was James Bryant, his 20th David Visa. Matt Carter is going to bowl the next over. Maybe, just maybe, Matt Carter got out of jail a little bit there with a wicket falling the ball after his misfield. I would imagine Samit's just about forgotten it now. 109 for 4 as we begin the 15th. Carter, 3 overs, none for 20. He's also on a milestone, but he won't get it from this delivery, which is short and wide and cut away again for 4. Nice looking shot, and that brings Malan on to 50. That's a really good innings for Dawid Malan. His first half century of this year's competition, come up in even time from 52 minutes, 37 balls, 4 fours and 2 sixes. Next ball just helped onto the leg side, and a single. Should really be no excuse for the misfield. I know you've been down there, you played down there. It's like a bowling green, isn't it? It's not like your village green where you might get something just to bobble or bump or cause you to misfield. It's absolutely flat as a snooker table.
It is. We're pretty lucky these days with the pitches and the outfields the groundsmen are producing, and Trent Bridge certainly one of the better ones.
Generally, the only time you see a bobble is if it hits one of the fielding discs, bizarrely. Carter bowls, and the new arrival is Matthew Revis. Forces this into the offside, no run. Revis has had a bat in all three of Yorkshire's games so far, scores of 10, 42 and 14. So into double figures each time. 115 for 4. Malan is on 53. Looks to unload now then. Has he got hold of this? Hales right on the boundary. Can't pour it back. And it's gone for 6. You can see what Alex Hales was initially. He was obviously looking to try and take the catch. And then he realised it was going to be one of those that was just going to be impossible to catch. The fielder plays, so he leapt high with his arm behind him up in the air, just trying to pour it back into the field of play, but couldn't, and it's 6. Next ball, hit back to Carter, another superb stop. Getting a real mix and match here from Matt Carter with the fielding. 121 for 4. Milan's gone quickly to 59. He's now gone to 60 by punching this through long on out to Hales. You often see Alex Hales with the short sleeve, not and the elastic sleeves on, but tonight he's got the long sleeve shirt on. So 122 for 4 Yorkshire Vikings. Matt Carter's finished his spell, 4 overs, none for 33. David Milan's still there. You might remember, Grace, right at the start I said Notts might be in dire straits if Milan or Live are still there after 13, 14 or 15 overs. Well, Milan is still there. He's been joined by Revis. 122 for 4. How many are they going to get from the last 5? As Colin Frey once again will pick up commentary.
Samit Patel is going to continue from the pavilion end, and he's bowling to Milan, who is on 60, who goes down onto one knee and aims for cow corner, and it comes out about 4 yards onto the offside, and Tom Moores does the fielding. 122 for 4 as Patel is in again, and this is well pitched up, dug out by Milan. They're scampering through for a second. Lyndon James hurtles in off the boundary and they through for 2. Milan on to 62. Cold, isn't it?
It's been a lot colder today than it has been in the previous days, hasn't it? And it's just dropped a little bit as it gets into the night.
There's Patel again. Milan plays this out square on the offside, and it's fielded by Mulaney at point. No run. Cold hands. First time in a long time. Good spell of weather just at the moment. This next one is dug out again by Milan, this time up towards long on. And that's Joe Clark all the way up there. It has been throughout the game so far. It is. And it's just a single, which brings Revis back onto strike. Very tall figure, towering over Tom Moores, who's, as you would expect, standing up to Samit Patel, who comes round the wicket. And Revis just steers this one up towards the mid-on area. And long on, who's Alex Hales, to run in and field, single. 26 for 4. 4 off the over. Last ball coming. David Milan eyeing up the mid-wicket boundary out by the Smith-Cooper stand. Patel's last ball. And it is played in that direction. He's bisected the fielders. It's a really good shot in between mid-wicket and long on. And neither can get to it, Lyndon James nor Joe Clark. Very good shot from Milan. You could see him eyeing and trying to find his gap even before Samit had bowled. 130 for 4 at the end of 16.
Yeah, probably needed to find the boundary there, the Vikings. It was pretty tight over, just 4 from the first 5 balls, with only 4 overs remaining now, so a needed boundary, and you just sense they're slightly below par here unless they have a very big few overs, which is very possible with Milan 67 not out.
Revis at the other end. Shaheen Sharafridi is the man who's coming back into the attack, because you'd imagine anyway, of those last 4 overs are going to be bowled by one of the best T20 bowlers in the world.
It's a pretty good economy that in T20 cricket, isn't it? 2.5 and over.
Yeah, 0 for 5 from his 2 overs so far. 8 dot balls from the 12 that he's bowled. And a new batsman in to face him in Matthew Revis. He's faced 2 balls so far, and this is dropped in short, and it's steered up in the air and to safety. I'm not entirely sure Revis got what he meant from that. He sort of played the bat out at shoulder height, and it went looping up on the offside and ended up going over cover for 4 eventually, after it had come down from quite a height.
Strange shot that. I'm not too sure how much Revis knew about it. It looked like he kind of just dangled the bat there and it came off quite nicely, but as Fletcher was saying earlier, it's a batter's game and he's got 4 runs for it.
Yeah, he's on to 6, 134 for 4. I shouldn't think Shaheen's very impressed with that. Here he comes again, and this is on the stumps, but it's punched away down the ground, and 1 bounce into the arms of Matthew Montgomery. So just a single for Revis this time, which brings Malan on to strike. 135 for 4. 3 overs to come after this. So what's that? 22 balls remaining. I think Yorkshire will want, if they can, to accelerate. Because I think they'll realise, as you mentioned a couple of balls ago, Grace, that they're behind the 8 ball a little bit here. 35 for 4. Here's Shaheen again, and this is played out. Just going to go behind square on the offside eventually. There's a diving stop right on the rope by Lyndon James, who had to stretch out every inch of his tall frame to get to it. Gets up, runs round the boundary 10-15 yards further, having deflected the ball away, and stops. I think probably a run. Did they run 3?
They ran 3, yeah.
Ran on 70.
It's a very impressive piece of fielding to save 1 run by Lyndon James. That was a good delivery by Freedy, probably pretty much where he wanted to bowl it, near Yorker length, but dug out well by Milan.
70 have come off 47 balls. Here's Shaheen Sharafridi again, just backing away a little bit. Revis, he digs this one out. I think Afridi sort of followed him with the ball, and he dug it out the block hole and got through for 1. Again, he's just studying the bottom of his bat. I'm entirely sure he knew a great about it. Revis. 139 for 4. 1 for 14 for Afridi. And David Milan back on strike. Here's Afridi over the wicket. Milan tries to pull him round onto the onside. It's ended up going towards long on. Hales quickly in. They've gone for 2, and Hales goes for the non-striker for the wicket-keeper's end. And they get home just about. Had to be quick. Hales was very quickly in off the boundary rope. 141 for 4. That's 11 off the over so far. Here's Afridi in, and this is a scoop. And was there any touch? No, there wasn't. Tom Moores, I thought for a second, Tom Moores, who took the catch behind the stumps, was appealing, but what he was doing was applauding Afridi's delivery, because Milan sort of squared up and tried to scoop it over the wicketkeeper, got nothing on it, and it went straight through to Tom Moores. End of the over. It's 141 for 4.
Yeah, I reckon the Vikings will be pretty happy with taking 11 off that over off Notts' strike bowler. Brings them up into a slightly more respectable total as they look to push, I reckon, this over. It's the most expensive, also the highest wicket taken of today, Jack Brooks. They're going to have to take him on here, aren't they, in your sense?
I think so, yes. He went for 17, didn't he, in the 4th over of the day. but he came back, as you say, in the 6th over and got his next over, got 2 wickets in that over, which went for just 4. I beg your pardon, 7. That was the 6th over. That was the last over of the power play when Yorkshire again were looking to take him on. You're right, they may well do here. 2 for 24. Just having a look at the field. Revis is the batsman on strike. Bringing Patel up inside the circle. It's behind square leg. Outside the circle on the offside. One at wicket and long on. And this is bowled outside the off stump by Brooks and dug out again. It was a good length delivery. Dug out. Again, he looks at the toe end of his bat. Does Brooks? Does Revis? Got a single for it up to Alex Hales.
Yeah, they've executed their death plans pretty well so far. NOTTS, I mean, pretty much every Yorker's been bang on. We saw Lyndon James bowl what was effectively a death plan in the middle overs to conserve, and he executed as well. So it's been a pretty impressive general bowling performance from the Outlaws.
Brooks into Milan, who's on 72, and he's got an edge on this. It's gone miles in the air, and it's going to run away from the 2 chasing fielders for 4. He gave everything in the swing, and he edged it, and it went over beyond the fielders, up inside the circle in the 3rd man area. Carter and Samit Patel both giving chase, but couldn't get there.
That's the risk you take, bowling seamers with both fine and 3rd up at the death. I mean, if they catch anything of it, if they're swinging hard enough, it will race away for 4 inevitably.
In comes Brooks again to Milan, and this is banged straight back to the bowler's head for a 1 bounce 4 into the pavilion. David Milan has very much got his eye in here, and he, as we've been will know that Yorkshire needs some runs over these last few overs, and they've got up to the 150 mark now with Milan moving on to 80. 2.5 overs to go. Brooks a little bit under pressure here from David Milan, halfway through the 18th over. In he comes again. That's a good response. There's an appeal for LBW by Tom Moores behind the stumps. It's squirted out onto the side, and they've gone through for single. Did he get some bat on it? I didn't see the umpire make a signal. I don't think it was a leg bite, was it?
He must have done, because I was thinking I'd be going up for that, and Brooks showed absolutely no interest, so it must have been a decent bit of bat on it.
Revis taking stance here, well outside the off stump, and he's hoyed this miles in the air. Alex Hales running underneath it, takes the catch. Revis is gone. Brooks gets his 3rd wicket, celebrates with clenched fists above his head, and the yellow and green flags, the gold and green flags are waving again. Yorkshire lose their 5th wicket, and Brooks gets his 3rd. And Revis is gone for 9, 151 for 5.
Pretty good short innings by Revis, did what needed to be done at the latter stages of the game, but another good wicket and another one for Jack Brooks, who, whilst being the most expensive of the NOTTS bowlers, has picked up a few wickets here, and probably more the runs being saved there. When it first got hit, looked like it could have been sailing over the ropes, but not to be pleased and just relieve a little bit of the pressure off Jack Brooks, and brings Jordan Thompson, a clean striker of the ball, and I've seen him score a fair few runs. Jordan Thompson, he could cause some damage here to the Outlaws.
This could be a good foil for Milan at the other end. 151 for 5, 2 overs, 1 ball to come. On BBC Radio Nottingham, it's coverage of T20 cricket from a chilly Trent Bridge tonight. Crowd is very good again. Pavilion almost full, 1 or 2 empty white seats. The Hound Road stand opposite us at the far end, next to the pavilion, is probably about the fullest. Fewest amount of empty white seats in that one. Here's Brooks then, into the new batsman Thompson, who's playing this one up towards long off, and Clark runs in and fields. And they get a single, and that is the end of the over. 152 for 5. Again, Brooks, earlier in the night, we saw him punished, and then he came back with a couple of wickets in the 6th over. And here, within the space of that over, his 3rd, he was getting some hammer from Milan, and he responded by getting a wicket of Revis.
He's been bouncing back pretty well, as he's saying. I suppose that's what comes with the experience of Jack Brooks. Manages to stay calm under pressure. A younger player might get flustered, end up, bowling another shorter one under pressure, but he's came back every time, and with Afridi at the other end keeping the pressure on, it's working out well for the Outlaws.
152 for 5. Yorkshire having won the toss and decided to bat earlier. And they have 12 balls remaining. George Thompson is going to face the first of those as Shaheen Shah Afridi comes in from the Radcliffe Road end, and that's gone pulled high in the sky. And again, there's a man underneath it for Notts. Again, the catch taken. And it is Matt Carter who gets another catch for Notts. It's another one of those steepling, towering catches that in the air for a long time. And Afridi gets his wicket. And Yorkshire 6 down, 152 for 6. And out swinging as you'd have expected at this stage. He goes for 1.
Yeah, that's again very good death bowling by Afridi. He's really executed those Yorkers and that wide on the offside. Jordan Thompson does all he can really to try and get under it and take it out onto the leg side, but it's just perfectly executed. And another catch more difficult than it looks from Matt Carter. Another one goes into hand. They've been impressive today, with the exception of a couple of misfields, Notts in the field, and they've taken all the chances. And it brings Ben Mike, moved from Leicester to Yorkshire this year, into bat.
Yeah, some of those catches, I think that's 4 now, maybe 5, maybe all 5. I think 4 have been really high. They've gone miles in the air. They've gone a lot further up than they have away from the square. And all 4 have been very safely pouched.
They're horrid, those. You've just got so much time to think whilst it's coming down, and you don't even have to move. I'd rather be running for it and having to put the dive out.
Spectacular, the process.
Well, you catch it.
Yeah. 152 for 6. First wicket then for Shaheen Shah Afridi. Ben Mike face, comes round the wicket, it's driven straight back down the ground, almost hits the stumps at the non-striker's end. Running round the boundary is Montgomery to field. And they've gone for 2, which will keep Ben Mike with the tray. He's the latest to have a look at his bat, just inspect it, make sure it's not cracked. But it is okay. It's 154 for 6. Here's Afridi once again, and this is turned away off his hips, just maybe straying slightly down the leg side. Afridi looked unhappy with his delivery, did the bowler, and Ben Mike just sort of helped it on its way and steers it round the corner for 4.
Absolutely, I think probably fair to say that's the first time he's got it wrong. He's just got a little bit too straight on it, and yeah, that's an easy pick up for Ben Mike, but he does manage to find the gap between fine leg and square leg well, to be fair. Just no stopping that for either of the fielders, just finds it nicely. Vikings 158 for 6.
Could just tell from Afridi straight away, couldn't you, almost, that he was unhappy. See how he comes back. This is on the stumps, and it's almost toe-ended away through the covers for 4 more for Ben Mike. And Afridi puts both hands on his hips this time. Not hugely impressed, I think, by the treatment he's getting from Ben Mike here. I think he was on himself the first time. I think he's not so happy with the batsman this time, but well played, Ben Mike. He's come in and scored 10 off 3 against Shaheen Afridi.
Yeah, you order runs, just what you want. Lower order in white ball cricket, ability to come in and just find the rope from ball 1, which is what Ben Mike has done.
162 for 6. Very useful runs here for Yorkshire late on. This one is again off the toe end, and as he's running through for a single, he is gesturing to the dressing room that he is going to need a new bat this time. Right up in the block hole from Shaheen Shah Afridi, and Hales ran into field, and Ben wants a new bat.
He's probably got about 7 or 8 in the dressing room. Some of these men have got a ridiculous amount of bats, I must say.
On strike on 82. Afridi bowls. It's driven straight back, and it kind of hits the bowler. He almost thought about a low catch and couldn't quite get down to it, and it might have just ricocheted off his shin, I think, or his knee. Down. There's Shaheen. He had to run after it as well before thinking about where it might have hit him. They get a couple off the last ball of the over, and Shaheen Afridi finishes with 4 overs, no maiden, 1 for 29. It's 165 for 6 with an over to come.
Looks like Jack Brooks will be taking the final over. Vikings will be looking to get to around that 180 mark. Probably par, to be honest, and something they'll be happy with from the position they're at the halfway stage, but I also expect Notts will be pretty confident in chasing that down with the line that they've got, Colin.
Yeah, Notts, it feels as if Notts have been slightly ahead throughout most of the innings. Probably from the time they took those 2 wickets. Jack Brooks took those 2 wickets in the final power play over, but even before then, right from the start, they were 14 off the first 3 overs. So I think we'll always feel they've been slightly ahead of the game, but Ben Mike has been hitting it hard, and Milan certainly has, and Mike again digs this one out just outside the off stump, and it chips over the top of Mulaney at point and goes in between the 2 fielders for 4. Mike's got another boundary. 169 for 6.
Just seems to be being pretty clever with his shots here, Ben Mike. He hasn't necessarily come and looked to hit the ball out of the park, but he's just found the gap, which isn't always easy with 5 fielders out. And yeah, he's very, very valuable run, striking at 300 at the moment.
He's swinging hard at everything, isn't he? I suppose you'd expect at this stage of the innings, but he's connecting as well. Good runs. Here's Brooks again. And this again is outside the off stump. This is aerial this time, and Montgomery goes and takes the catch. And Brooks races across to the outfield to go and celebrate with Montgomery. It is a 4th wicket for Jack Brooks on his Notts debut tonight. 4 for 39. Ben has gone. Very valuable runs for Yorkshire at the death. 15 he made, and it's 169 for 7. Strange old night for Jack Brooks. He's got every time he concedes, coming back with a wicket. 4 for 39.
He loved that one as well, didn't he? Nearly found himself on the boundary rope sprinting away with celebration. It was a pretty good celebration. I do enjoy a good one, and you just sense that the Notts bowlers getting a bit frustrated with the impact Ben Michael's having, and yeah, they're definitely pleased to get him out, and Jack Brooks could be on for a T25 for her.
Yeah, Don Bess is the new batsman, and you're absolutely right. There are 4 balls to come. 169 for 7, and Brooks on a 5-fer. Best to take strike. Milan on 83 has to look on from the non-striker's end. 4 balls to come. 169 for 7. Here's Brooks. Best goes walking right across his stumps. Brooks follows him. He tries to shovel it out. Samit Patel comes in and has a shy at the stumps, and then Mulaney's backing up well as Don Bess is looking for an overthrow. They've gone through for a single, and very good backing up from Stephen Mulaney to prevent it being more than that, as Patel had a go at the stumps because Don Bess off balance when he started the run because he was being called down by Milan, who wanted to get back onto strike with 3 balls to go.
Where's he going here, do you reckon?
He will be eyeing up the Smith Cooper stand, won't he? He has done most of the night. Here's Brooks, and he's clipped it out onto that side. It's falling just short of Lyndon James. It bounces into Lyndon James, hits him on the chest and goes across the rope for 4 at deep square. Now that's unfortunate for Lyndon James. He looks crestfallen, actually, does James. By and large, Notts have been good in the field tonight, but that could be costly.
Yeah, just a couple of costly misfields, and that was one of those ones where it bounces in an awkward place and you don't know whether to catch, but in the last over you just look to hold back and prevent the boundary, don't you?
Here's Brooks again. Milan has pulled this one away towards Clark, but I think it's got the distance. Yes, it's over Clark and it's over the rope. It's 6 for David Milan, who moves on to 93 in Yorkshire's total of 180 for 7. Plugged away by Milan, who's now 4-6. That's 2 balls after racing down to get onto the strike for those last 3 balls. And Yorkshire 180 for 7, which is at least where they will have wanted to be. Brooks with the last ball of the into Milan. It's up in the block hole. It's dug out by Milan. They'll run through for 1. In comes Montgomery as they go through for 2. He's in towards Tom Moores, but Milan has got home and he'll get another 2, which means he will finish unbeaten on 95, David Milan, from 56 balls. It's a terrific knock from him, from the Yorkshire man. 182 for 7 is how Yorkshire finish, which I think they'll have got at least, as just mentioned that last ball, they'd have got at least Grace Ballinger up to somewhere around where they'll have wanted to be, at least somewhere around par, and it gives them something to defend. But for a long time it looked like they weren't going to get up there, but good runs at the end by Ben Mike, who hit 15, and that was a fine knock from David Milan to end with 95.
Yeah, absolutely, just held the innings together for the Vikings throughout and stayed positive, striking at around the 180 mark, and as you say, you sense that's about par, but probably slightly over par from where Vikings were at the end of the power play. So yeah.
The commentary team, they'll be back in about 10 minutes' time. Dane, 182 for 7 the Vikings finish on. Let's go back to the very beginning. It was a very good start from Shaheen Afridi, and, well, 41 for 2 the Vikings were in the power play. Just talk us through those first 6 overs.
Yeah, I think the Notts bowlers kept it nice and simple. So yeah, I think that's probably a good start. I'd probably take that as a power play. So yeah.
We talked about Jack Brooks making his debut today. He took a bit in the first over of him, 23 runs, but boy did he respond in the second, getting those 2 wickets, crucial wickets as well, breaking Adam Lyth, that opening partnership, and then obviously that Will Tuxton coming in as well. But 2 wickets on his debut. Just talk about that kind of feeling when you get those wickets.
Yeah, I mean, you're always in the game as a bowler. That's why I said when things get tough, you just have to stay in the game. I mean, he took 4 for 51, so I mean, I'd take that as a bowler any day on Trent Bridge also. So yeah, it's quite good.
David Milan, I've mentioned him before, here for the Rockets. He's obviously played here for the Vikings as well. 95, carrying his bat. You don't see that very often in T20, do you? An opener still there at the end, but he held that Yorkshire innings together, didn't he, really?
Yeah, he did. I mean, I think at the end he was just starved for the strike because of wickets falling around him. I think that was actually a good thing for Notts, otherwise he could have been chasing 200 plus here because, I mean, he's played the situation well. I mean, he's taken his chances and that, so a couple of mistime shots, almost got caught there by Hills on the boundary. But yeah, and again, it's a good innings.
We've got some highlights to show the people at home, so we'll run them now as our Trent Bridge live. You were meant to hold that down.
No, I wasn't.
No. We'll get that back later on, but we'll show you the highlights just while me and Dane carry on talking. Obviously, we've got the Yorkshire Viking bowlers warming up behind us. Just mention Matt Montgomery as well. He's making his debut this season in T20 in the first team for the Outlaws. He picked up a wicket against Derbyshire here the other night. He picked up another one for a youngster coming into a team and contributing the way that he is at the moment with the ball and the bat?
Yeah, I mean, Monty always works hard on his game. He's been working hard on his bowling also. And it's good to see him get a couple of wickets. Obviously, that gives him a confidence boost in that. And, I mean, with the bat, we all know what he can do with the bat. But I think we haven't seen much of him in white ball cricket, and I think he showed that against Derby. Obviously, fell short in Durham. And I think tonight is a perfect situation because I think he likes to bat through. That's his kind of demeanour that he has to his game. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes tonight.
For T20, people think you've just got to kind of like smack it out the park. You've got to hit sixes, you've got to hit fours and things like that. When you have a player like Monty, but he can hit a six, he can hit a four, but like you say, he likes to sort of, bat through and really make a difference in the innings. How crucial are those people in T20? Because you can't all just have the people that go out and smack it all the time, can you, in those terms?
Yeah. We've just seen it now with Davi Malan batting through the innings. I mean, it just takes one batsman. I mean, in batter is important at the end. I mean, he knows what. I mean, he can see the ball like a football. So I mean, yeah, it's always important for a batsman to get through. I mean, I think these days, with T10 and T5, T2, I mean, they have so much time in T20 nowadays. So. Yeah, with those shorter formats, I think it helps in T20 cricket.
Is that where strike rate comes into it, really? As long as you're out there and you're obviously scoring more than the balls that you're facing. I mean, we spoke to Pete over the years, and he says as long as, you've got a good strike rate over 100, if you see somebody that maybe got 20, but they got it from 10 balls, they've made a good contribution in T20 cricket.
Yeah, I mean, strike rate's always important. I mean, look at Test cricket nowadays. I mean, you can see it through the first class scene here now in the UK. But yeah, I mean, strike rates are always important in the game. I mean, it's how you go about it. So yeah, I mean, if you're in batter and you're striking high and you're at the end of the innings, then I mean, it's a good knock at the end of the day in T20 cricket.
Now, something that if you've not been down here to Trembridge in the games that we've had so far, we've only had one against Derby, but there's a new person, and you quite like what he's playing at the moment, isn't it? Jess Prince, DJ here. He's played some tunes that you like.
Yeah, I mean, he's played a couple of tunes when a wicket falls, which I quite like. Takes me back to the 90s, which was the good old days, the decade. And yeah, just out some golden oldies at the moment here for the fans here at Trent Bridge. But I mean, what a turnout for the Tuesday night. I mean,
we have to say something about that, don't we? Because it's not the warmest of evenings, is it, to be fair? But this is where the club's done a good price, £10 for adults, £5 for children, and pretty much every stand is pretty full, really. So it's a good turnout from Notts fans, and let's just notice there are some Yorkshire fans down there in the corner making noise as always, but it's a good turnout.
Yeah, it is a good turnout. I mean, it's always nice to play in front of you could say full house on a Tuesday night. So yeah, I'm sure that would get the for the teammates, the batsmen. I mean, they like to perform in front of the fans, so yeah, it should be a good chase.
Talking about those batsmen, let's talk about them. Joe Clark, Alex Hales will making their way down the pavilion steps very, very soon. Both, I mean, Alex Hales is coming off a match-winning knock yesterday against Durham. Joe Clark, he's been in form, obviously straight from the off, really. How will they be approaching this chase of 183, do you think?
Well, obviously they'll be very positive in the power play. I think the two of them understand their game. Even Pete gives them the backing. So I mean, if they get out, they know if they played a bad shot, or if it was there and they get out. I mean, the commitment is there. And end of the day, I think that's the DNA. I think if it's there, I mean, it's going to be out the park.
We've seen adaptability as well, haven't we, from the Outlaws over the years, in the sense of changing the order. Sometimes Tom Moore's coming in with that left hand. Obviously, we've got Colin Munro this year as well, left-handed, mixing that right-hand, left-hand combination, especially as you mentioned with the short boundary here at Trent Bridge.
Yeah, I mean, well, if you could see tonight, I think it's outfield is quite dry and hard, so the ball's racing off. Yeah, that's why I said it's weird, that because I think chasing here is always good. But yeah, it's just short side, always the darker side, yeah. I mean, so yeah, I think Monroe will be looking this side, Tommy Moores. So yeah, but I mean, it's not too long down the ground here at Trent Resources. So I mean the right-handers are also in play here. So yeah, I mean.
We've mentioned. Sorry, mate, to cut you off. I do apologise. We've mentioned obviously that we think chasing's a good thing here. So let's look at it from a Yorkshire point of view. As I mentioned, they're warming up behind us. What will they be looking to do first off? Take early wickets in the power play, put Notts under a bit of pressure.
Yeah, they'll probably be looking to take some wickets. I think they'll be probably trying to mix the pace up. I mean, because Clarkey and Ailes, they come hard at the ball. And yeah, I think they'll obviously be looking to take wickets. So because I mean they're defending 180,
182.
Yeah, 182. So I mean the early wickets they get, I think they'll be happy. So, yeah.
And I suppose just finally, before we head back over to the commentary team, the batting depth of Outlaws, that's where that comes in as well, isn't it? We saw the other day against Derbyshire, Samit Patel coming in, and I think it was like number 8. We're used to him batting at number 5 over the years, etc. But there's batting depth from the Outlaws, isn't there? No panic.
Yeah, I mean, we forgot another left-hander, Freedy. I mean, look what he did.
Look what he did against Durham.
Look what he did. So, I mean, they bat from 1 to 11. I mean, that's what you need in T20 cricket. So, yeah, I think they'll be looking forward to it. And, yeah, I mean, it could be a vital 2 points.
OK, so I'm going to put you on the spot. One-word answer. Outlaws win, yes or no?
Yes.
I thought you'd say that.
Yeah, I'm biased, obviously.
Exactly. I didn't expect you to say anything less. So the Yorkshire team are just gathering on the boundary. We're now going to pass you over to the commentary team. Dame's going to join me at the end after you've had a little bit of food and stuff like that?
Yes, I would.
Good. That's another good answer.
All right.
Enjoy the second innings. Outlaws are chasing 182. We'll hand you back over to your commentary team.
As the umpires make their way back out into the middle here at Trent Bridge, Steve O'Shaughnessy and Tom Lungley are the men in charge tonight. They're heading back out. The floodlights, I mentioned the grey cloud, which has been since the start, much of a glimmer of sunshine through the day here in Nottingham today. And but the floodlights now are just starting to make themselves felt. You can see the shadows from all of the floodlights shining down on the ground staff in the middle as Nottinghamshire opening pair make their way out. Alex Hales and Joe Clark with the Yorkshire fielders coming out to chase down 183. That is the Notts target after Yorkshire made 182 for 7. And it's going to be interesting, as always, to see how they go about it. But whenever Alex Hales and Joe Clark stride to the crease at the start of a T20 match, Ballinger, who's with us tonight, Blaze player, now based here at Trent Bridge, of course. Whenever these two come out with a target to chase, there's just a little buzz goes around the ground, isn't there? Because you just never know which one of them is going to go for it, whether both of them are going to have one of those nights or...
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, both of them pretty explosive and destructive batters, and don't think they're really going to mess around, either of them. They're very, very well-known white ball players and a big crowd in here at Trent Bridge. I think we'll be pretty confident in chasing down this total, but that being said, these two out early and a couple quick wickets in the power play could definitely cause some uncertainty. A relatively young middle order for the Outlaws, and Matthew Montgomery batting very well, but as Dave said earlier, not that much T20 experience, so be interesting to see him under pressure in this chase.
It is Dom Bess who is going to open the bowling for Yorkshire from the Radcliffe Road end, near end to us, who's going to walk away from us at the start of his short run and comes in and twirls one over the wicket to Joe Clark, who prods it up to long on, and there's just a goal to get Notts going as Visa does the fielding. Clark and Hales. And that little buzz around the ground. A few more empty white seats at the moment as people are just finishing off getting their refreshments. Bess is in, pitches this one up well, and it's just out onto the onside again by Hales this time. And both the batsmen off the mark with the first ball that they faced. Hales getting into the T20 really for the first time last night up at Durham. Good score for him. Clark has already been firing this season, and again he's out onto the onside and running round from the mid-wicket boundary. Jordan Thompson does the fielding, just a single again. It's kind of unspectacular start to the innings that Yorkshire will have wanted. As Bess comes round the wicket to Hay, clubbed him down the pitch, straight drive and a spilling dive from Shan Masood, can't make any contact, and it goes through for the first boundary, 4 to Alex Hales.
Yeah, great show of intent there from Alex Hales. I mean, just took it pretty easy with the first couple of deliveries, and Don Bess just getting a touch too full, and you just can't get it wrong to a batter of the standard of Alex Hales, and he gets punished first boundary of the innings.
Notts on to 7. Bess bowls again, and Hales flicks this one off his legs, again out towards Jordan Thompson on the mid-wicket boundary. He goes back into the bowler, and there's just a single this time for Hales. On to 6, brings Clark back onto strike for the final ball of the first over. So, again, all around the ground, take their seats, but not behind the bowler's arm. And this is well pitched up, dug out by Clark, again towards the mid-wicket area. Oh, there's a misfield, and that enables Clark to come back for 2. Running round from long on was Will Luxton, and there's a bit of a misfield, and that lets Notts get 2, and it's 10 without loss at the end of the first over.
Yeah, a decent start there, relatively comfortable 1-2, 10 runs from it, but probably more significantly no dot balls there, so they haven't allowed Don Bess, one of their strike bowlers, as we said earlier, he's played tests for England. They haven't allowed him to settle at all, and they've just got on top straight away, which is a great show of intent and just some clever cricket really from the Outlaws opening pair.
Visa is going to bowl from the pavilion end, first over from that far end. As a load more people come and retake their seats after getting on board the referee. It's very much a night for warm hoodies and coats, as Alex Hales just surveys the field, and then as Visa comes in, and this is just played out into the covers, and there's no run off the first ball.
Pretty interesting field set here, Colin, with deep point and a deep square, third and fine both up for the seamer. Wonder if this is a set plan to Alex Hales in particular.
It's unusual to have those two outside the circle, isn't it?
Absolutely. He just can't get his lengths wrong here and go too full, because he will get punished with this field.
Visa again past the umpire and bowls to Hales, who flicks this one off his pads. Round 2. Yeah, backward square, but completely safely, so just a single. And a little word from Alex Hales to Joe Clark, who prepares to face his first ball from Visa, who's in. He's running across his stumps, his Clark. He almost plays on as he tries to shovel one over his shoulder. almost played it into his stumps, but he was miles outside his stumps when he actually made contact with it. As Visa saw him moving, I think, followed him with the ball, and Clark has almost played it straight into his stumps.
Yeah, not always a high-risk shot, the ramp, especially with these two up, but when he moves that much and pretty early, you sense it was just slightly too predictable from Joe Clark, and he just maybe needs to be a bit later on that.
It's Visa again. Good over so far. This is clubbed straight back over his head by Clark. A straight drive, which a couple of bounces rattles into the advert board in front of the pavilion at the far end. That's 4 for Joe Clark. And that's got Notts ticking over again after a good couple of balls. Visa.
That's what we were saying earlier. He just can't afford to go that full with the field he's got to say. If he wants to have these two out, he needs to bowl back for length, otherwise players of this standard will just hit him over his head.
Here he is again. David Visa. Oh, well, this is top-edged and skied. Gone way up in the air from Joe Clark, and the wicket-keeper comes around and takes a comfortable catch. Clark was already walking back to the... Knew he was gone. Wicket for Yorkshire. Clark is gone for 8. Caught by Johnny Tattersall, running round in front of his stumps, towering again. It went miles in the air, as so many of the Yorkshire shots did, which the Notts fielders all managed to catch. But the same has happened here to Joe Clark. It's 15 for 1 in the second over.
What do I know, Colin? I've told him not to go full, and he's gone full next full, and yeah, that shut me right up. But yeah, that's a big wicket and an important one for the Vikings, who will feel as if they maybe take one more wicket, and if that one's Alex Hales, they'll be backing themselves to get over the line here and put their first win of the T20 on the board. Not been the start that Yorkshire would have wanted to the season in any format, really, has it?
Not at all, but they'll see this as a big win if they can get their campaign going here at Trent Bridge. It's a group that looks as if it's going to be competitive tonight. This season, you see Lancashire beating Notts and looking very good in beating Notts at the weekend, but then crumbling today. So at the moment, I mean, I know there are teams that are unbeaten so far, as well as teams that haven't won, but just wonder if anybody's going to be able to be really dominant. Munro, the new batsman, cut this away behind square on the offside, 4 off his first ball, and that's a very good start. These are looking unhappy with the fact that it has to end what was otherwise a pretty decent over by conceding a boundary. Munro showing his intent for the first ball, and it's 19 for 1.
Yeah, nicely timed that shot, just waited on it and punched it through that gap. That's the thing with the power play. If you can find, there are so many that are accessible, and with outfielders quick at Bridge, if you get it through, it's running to the rope. And 19 for 1, not to be happy with the run rate, but they just need to make sure they don't lose any more wickets in this power play.
It's going to be Don Best to continue, went for 10 off his first over, and he's to Alex Hales, who has to play this one circumspectly off the back foot out towards the mid wicket. Visa again fielding, and that will bring left-handed Colin Munro on to strike. 20 for 1. Notts chasing 183 to win. Yorkshire 182 for 7, led by David Milan. 95. Best comes round the wicket to Munro's. Again, just playing this very defensively. Out square on the offside, and there's no run. Wicketkeeper runs round to field. And Bess again. Round the wicket to Munro. Well pitched up, dug out of the block hole by Munro. Another dot ball. Brings his bat into the Trent Bridge playing strip and drives this one down the ground beyond the Don Best, but he didn't really get hold of it. And Shan Sood runs around from mid-on to field. Again, a dot ball. Important for Yorkshire in the power play. They can keep these dots coming, and there's another one here as this one's played up towards mid-off this time. Nothing's on the circle. Visa, fielder. 20 for 1 still. Bess into Munro. Back to the bowler. Is that a catch? There are plenty of fielders who are appealing. Dom Bess, I think, genuinely doesn't know. He stood up and he's having a look at the umpire. The umpire can't, I think, well, unless the square leg umpire saw it, but the umpire certainly can't give anything because he wouldn't have seen, because he was directly behind Dom Bess. Plenty of fielders appealed. Bess looks as if he thinks he caught it but doesn't know. It's not out, and it's 20 for 1 at the end of the over. And there's still conversations going on between Bess and the batsman.
Didn't look confident, did he, Dom Bess? I mean, a lot of the fielders went up,
Fielders
but
did, didn't they? Yeah.
You get the sense that he knew that it might have just dropped short of him, or I don't think he'd have reacted that way if he had any sort of inkling that he caught it.
Never mind what happened with that last ball. That's a heck of an over for Yorkshire in the power
absolutely.
play. 1 run from it.
It's impressive stuff. He
Don't see many of those.
He held his line very well with all the offside in the ring, and yeah, he got full reward for it. Well bowled.
Visa continuing from the pavilion end to bowl to Alex Hales, who's turning this one off his hip to backward square. And Matt Revis does the fielding, and it's just a single, which brings Munro back onto strike. 21 for 1, a quiet power play so far. Just over halfway through it. Joe Clark, the man to go. To this man, Visa, into Munro, who's steering this through third man, but it's well fielded right down on the boundary. Again by Matt Revis. And they get 2. I think when Munro hit the shot, he probably thought he'd found the gap, but it was some good ground made up actually by Revis, seeing where he's gone back to where his starting position was. He had some good distance to make up. Field it on the rope. And this next one is steered down in the same direction by Munro, but this time with not quite so much pace. And it rolls into the arms, this time of Revis, and take a comfortable single. 24 for 1.
He's begun relatively conserved here, hasn't he, Alex Hales? He's striking at a decent rate. He's over a run of ball, but it's not the extravagance that we've seen of him before, and certainly saw yesterday at Chesterley Street.
This is, again, just prodded up the pitch. Hales, and he'll have to settle for a single. A good ball from Visa. This is good bowling from Yorkshire in the power play. Just the odd shot here or there. Munro clubbed one first ball, didn't he? And Hales has found the boundary once as well. Here's Visa again to bowl to Munro, steering this down to third up inside the circle. And there's a slight misfield because it sort of reared up at him a little bit. And that enables them to go through for a single. 26 for 1.
Slight change of field. That deep point has come up, maybe just to get out the over, and there's a deep square and a cow corner in place.
Tails. Visa bowls to him. He's gone towards mid-wicket. A couple of bounces and fielded. Again, it's good fielding. And again, Hales has to content himself with a single, and after a very good over from Dom Bess, there's a very good follow-up here from David Visa as well. 27 off the over, but when you've got Hales and Munro in and you're restricting them in a power play over to only 7, I think Yorkshire will very much settle for that.
Absolutely, and it looks like we'll see Ben Mike for the first time bowling in the power play. And trying to think, was it 42 for 2 Yorkshire at the end of their power play?
41 for 2.
41 for 2. So unless this is relatively big from Ben Mike, looks like Vikings will be slightly ahead, but one down at the moment. The Outlaws carry as many wickets through into that back end as possible in a run chase.
Ben Mike from the Radcliffe Road end, starting his run just about on fielding circles. Hurtles away from us, past the umpire, and bowls now to Alex Hales, slightly down leg side. Hales was back away and just clips it out onto the onside, where Jordan Thompson does the fielding, running in from the boundary. And there's a single again. The crowd need see a few boundaries here. It's just a little bit tense at the moment, isn't it? There's a buzz around the ground, but not too much excitement yet in this Notts innings. 28 for 1, needing 182 to win, so another 155 to go. Munro to face Ben Mike, and he's playing this very nicely defensively. And it's fielded by David Milan, covers, and there's on. Not very often you get quiet power play. The Notts top order, but so far Yorkshire have bowled well, keeping them very much in check. Here's Ben Mike in again to bowl to Munro, and he's hit this one. Munro, that's gone down the ground. One bounce, 4 over, long off, and Munro finally getting the ball that he can punish, and 4 for Notts. That just relieves a little bit of power play pressure. 32 for 1.
Absolutely, yeah, it was a pretty dismissive shot from Munro. Touch full. Ben Mike wasn't necessarily a bad delivery, and he's just hit it straight back over him, so that just releases the pressure as you play off Munro and gets him over and run the ball again.
Halfway through the 5th over, 2 for 1. Ben Mike is in again to bowl to Munro. Wide open stance, just dabbing this into the onside, fielded at mid-wicket. There is a single for Munro. 13, Hales has 12 from the 10 balls he's faced. I think most people are now back in their seats after getting their half-time refreshments in. Ben Mike is in again to bowl to Hales, and he's clubbed this one. Hales through mid-wicket. That is going to bounce once before it clears the rope. Didn't quite fully, perhaps, get it right in the middle. Otherwise it would have sailed away far in the sky. But one bounce for Hales, and he and Munro will now feel a little bit calm, I suspect, after each getting a boundary.
Just can't bowl there to Alex Hales, can you? Just can't bowl there. He's so good off his legs and anywhere into that mid-wicket region, and he's not going to out and deliver that. Ben Mike's slightly under pressure here, 2 boundaries from his over.
It's a big gap, isn't there, as well, around that area, as Mike bowls and beats Hills. He's trying to lift him, I think, over the offside this time, but didn't get anything on it. Goes through to the wicket keeper. End of 5 overs. Hales has 16, Munro 13. Joe Clark, the man, out for 8. Notts 37 for 1 with 1 power play over to come. A word from Grace Ballinger, and commentary will be with Grace and Dave Bracegirdle.
It will be a change of bowling after a good 2 overs from David Reeser in the power play, and it will be Jordan Thompson, who has played in many a franchise tournament and performed with the ball, the white ball particularly. variations. He's a good bowler, I think, Dave, Jordan Thompson, and he could put the Notts Outlaws under pressure.
Yes, good all-round. Punchy, in your face. Likes the element that you get in these direct situations. His first ball is just dragged in halfway down, and Colin Munro works it on the leg side. So at the end of the 5th over, Notts had 37 runs on the board. Yorkshire at the same stage 34 for 1. So nip and tuck, as we saw last night up in the northeast, makes a huge difference if Alex Hales can bat through the innings, just controlling things. Always the likelihood that he'll cut loose at any stage, and he's got a boundary here, just managing to thread it there, Grace. 2 fielders once again, and down to third man for 4.
Yeah, pretty clever. It looked like he placed that in honesty, caught him slightly on the outside edge, but the player of Alex Hales is standing. We'll give him the benefit of the doubt and say that he's guided that into the gap, and it's just sense that Notts are starting to change gear a little bit here after a relatively quiet start. The early loss of Joe Clark, they're just a few bounds. The Vikings team is here, and Jordan Thompson's got to do something different.
Here comes Thompson again. The floodlight's starting to take effect now, and Hales has driven this down the ground. Going to fall safely, and it'll the rope. One hop over the boundary rope in front of the back 4s for Alex Hales, who's just trying to make the most of this final over of the power play. And Hales on to 24. He finished 65 not out. And just a word for the flag wavers here. This is a new addition to Trembridge this year for the T20 Blast. We've got some huge flags, the sort that you see somebody leading out the teams in the Olympics, and the poor souls that have to keep picking them up and waving them. The last thing they want is back-to-back boundaries, as we had then.
Get you one of them, Dave.
Bed sheet, isn't it? It's colossal. Thompson to Hales. He's deflected this away on the leg side for a single. Alex Hales, during the course of this innings, passed 11,000 runs in T20 cricket. I mean, the 8th player in the format wide there. So he's up amongst the elite. He's only 40 odd going into this innings behind Rohit Sharma. So if he can stick around for another couple of overs, he may well go 7th. Thompson bowled wide of the off stump, and Colin Munro can't really reach it. Didn't move his feet there, and it goes through to Tattoo.
Hasn't been an awful lot of swing here today, as they're often with the whiteboard. I think we saw some early with the Freedy. I just sensed that one maybe went away from the left-handed Munro slightly. How
long is it before it goes then? Because you thrive on that.
Who's bowling with it?
Well, you are.
Never.
47 for 1. Munro on strike. Just guide this down to third. Single. 8 for 1. I know you're having your time. Played a bit of red ball cricket, but predominantly now you play white ball cricket. It is the end of the power play. It's 48 for 1. You do things with the white ball like you can with the red. I know it doesn't buff up, it doesn't shine on one side, but is there a way of protecting it?
Not so much protecting it. Do get it to swing pretty consistently, but it's with the white ball more than the red ball. I think it's dependent on the conditions, like a hot day, not a cloud in the sky. You're going to do well to get the white ball to swing.
Is there somebody on your side who will take responsibility and just work on one side? See that in the red ball format. I mean, Liam Patterson-Wide is the ball polisher, if you like, for Notts. Just work on one side of the red ball.
Yeah, I mean, Captain Kirsty Gordon does a pretty good job at it mid-off, but yeah, you don't get the white ball swinging for quite as long as the red ball, unfortunately, especially in T20 cricket if you've taken a bit of tap in the power play.
On best to bowl the first over after the power play. He's already bowled 2 overs, none for 11. So at the back of the box watching on, I must admit, the first he had got Colin Munro caught and bowled, but I agree with the guys, it was very difficult to see and clearly out in the middle. The umpires were best placed. A couple of runs taken here as Munro fills this into the offside.
field, but it brings up the 50. Outlaws 50 for 1 in the 7th over. Remember, they're in pursuit of a victory target of 183. Best low full toss, just eased away by Munro for a single. He moves on to 18. So for Yorkshire, undoubtedly Dawid Malan, who made 95 not out. He just, I guess, going into the last 3 or 4 overs, he didn't receive as many looks at the strike as he would have wanted to get to 3 figures, but he did his level best in the last over. Next one's driven crisply down the ground to long off by Alex Hales. Like many of them, he took a bit of a liking to Jack Brooks, former Yorkshire man, making his NOTTS Outlaws debut this evening, and he got 4 wickets but went for 51 runs. It was a strange old return, wasn't it, for Jack Brooks? 52 for 1, best bowls. The Kiwi international Colin Munro bounces it back to the bowler. Best good for the over 8, absolutely races through each 7 for 6. Here he comes again, past umpire Lungley, bowls, and Munro just trying to open the shoulder, looking to unleash. Drags it to the ground and fielded by Ben Mike. Sad to say, there are 1 or 2 bare patches just starting to appear on the field here at Trent Bridge. It's looked lush and green and immaculate for the first 8, 9, 10 weeks of the season, whatever we've had, but a little bit of dry weather the last couple of weeks, and there are a few bare patches starting to form as best bowls and controlled nudge again down the ground, playing in the V, takes the single. 54 for 1 after 7.
Just sense that not starting to edge ahead here. Good partnership beginning to build between Munro and Hales. Munro didn't look comfortable. He faced quite a few dot balls, but looks like we'll be seeing a change of bowling. They need to get a wicket here. They'd like it to be Alex Hales, and it will be the leg spinner, young Johan.
Yeah, Johan. He is a product of the South Asian Cricket Academy. Not quite a rags to riches story, but invited up to Headingley with a group of other youngsters to go and bowl at the England Test team last year. Joe Root liked the look of his action. Suggested to Yorkshire management they might just want to take a further look, and Jaffa Chauhan given an extended trial, and now this season he's actually played a few games. Hope you can hear me. The music seemed to have gone up a notch or two. He's just easing his way into the game here. This just his 4th match for the Yorkshire first team as Hales pushes a single. And that moves on to 28. It's 55 for 1. He's played a bit of minor counties cricket, Jaffa Chauhan, for Berkshire, and London born, but now very much enjoying his rapid rise into the first team game up in Leeds as Munro cuts this away in the offside. So far, the 3 matches he's played, only 1 wicket. 0 for 22 against Birmingham, 1 for 26 against Worcestershire, and 0 for 25 against Durham, but they've used him sparingly up to this point. Hales on 28, unloads, unleashes, and delivers a huge blow towards the larwood and Vose, which surprised me by the fact that it just came down and just dipped just inside the rope for 4 as he unwinded and made contact. I thought that was going to go sailing merrily into the car park, but didn't quite have the carry.
Found the gap well there. Alex Hales is starting to fire here. 32 off 19.
There's Johan. Oh, this one spins away from Alex Hales, and it's eventually called wide by umpire O'Shaughnessy. But Hales just ventured forward. He ran the risk there of being stumped, because that one just turned away beautifully, didn't it? But turned too much, in the opinion of the umpire. All runs gratefully received by the home side. Chauhan bowls. Hales again makes a solid contact, picks out the fielder at deep mid-wicket. Single taken. No Matthew Fisher tonight in the Yorkshire side. He played in the last match, but they just rotated, and of course a number of star names missing. No Joe Root, who we've mentioned, Johnny Bairstow, because they're all away. England duty. Harry Brook, another one. This is helped into the leg by Colin Munro. It's a little bit like Yorkshire found in ages. Any time you get a really good contact on the ball, they're picking out the fielders in the deep. One ball left in the 8th over. That's required just about 9.9 and over, so this is no easy run chase at the moment. Only going along at about 8 and over, but with 9 wickets in hand, they would hope to accelerate at the appropriate time as Bowles and Hales again chops away. This will go for 4, I fancy it will. Listen to the... may just be the loudest score of the night. About the time the spectators just start to engage with the players and get behind them, just try and become the extra player and cheer them over the line. That's definitely the loudest roar of the night as Alex Hales goes to 37, 67 for 1. It's a 50 partnership as well, Grace, from just 38 balls. Hales 30 of that 50 partnership, Munro 21.
Just again shifting the momentum even further into Notts' hand here, isn't it? Not very often Alex Hales gets in and doesn't stay in. Certainly in fine form after his innings yesterday. It was a good one to watch yesterday, wasn't it, Dave?
Was indeed, yeah. But again, it was an innings of 2 halves. He was quickly out of the traps and finding the boundaries with ease, and then wickets went at the other end. And once Notts were about 4 or 5 down, he really did seem just to rein it in a little bit, just keep himself in check, just make sure he was going to be there until the end, and got Notts over the line, which maybe the Alex Hales of several years ago wouldn't have done. It would have still have been C-ball, but it was a very controlled and composed innings of clear thinking. Here's Matthew Revis, bowls right on medium pacer. Munro, left arm ball slapper, forces it out into the offside for a single. Came in last night, Munro, first ball, smack. A couple of balls later, trying to do it again, went straight up in the air, straight up the chimney, and he gone 6 and out.
Well assisted by Tom Moores yesterday, wasn't he, Mr. Hales?
Was indeed, yeah. He's had a pretty decent start, Tom Moores. 16, 41 not out and 32. 3 innings, first 3 innings back after breaking a finger right at the start of the season. Hales again just nudges this off his hip. He's run the first one quickly. I don't think they'll chance the arm, and they don't. 69 for 1. My word.
Loud those speakers, aren't they?
It's definitely not as loud as Friday. I do think perhaps the residents in the Fox Road have perhaps said, well, we can't hear our television, can you just turn the music down a little bit? Monroe's on 22. Revis bowls and another single for Monroe. Notts on to 17. Just imagine living in one of those houses just outside. You don't like cricket, you don't like the noise, you don't like those floodlights intruding. Probably not the place to live, is it?
No, you might be a bit silly to live there if you're not a cricket fan, Dave, I reckon. Quite like West Bridgeford. Could see myself moving here. Good coffee shops.
70 for 1. The rich and famous live there, so I expect to see Grace Ballinger moving in before too long as Hales nudges this back to Matt Revis. When's your next match? When are the Blaze next in action?
We're up at Chester Street on Friday, playing Northern Diamonds, who have also gone 4 from 4.
You've all Chester Street, haven't you?
That was in the 50 over comp, yeah. Where we bowled them all out for 63.
Revis bowls and
Hales forces this into the offside for a single, moves to 39, 71 for one. Enjoy the road works. I was labouring my way back in the wee small hour morning.
We've had some long coach journeys this year. I think the worst one might have been 5 hours back from Beckenham, which you don't appreciate really, do you? It's not 5 hours away.
It's not so bad when you've won.
That is true.
Monroe has 23. Revis bowls, and Colin Monroe had a little nibble at that one, and he threw his bat up in the air, and just for a second I wondered if he'd nicked it. He gave all the indication there that he'd nicked it and was walking off. He took a few steps towards the pavilion, threw his bat up in the air when it came down, and everybody started moving about because it was the end of the over. Nearly did me there. Nearly did the poor old commentator. 71 for one, the Outlaws. They require 112 more.
It's dramatic, that, for Colin Monroe, wasn't it?
Yeah. I imagine you've got all mod cons on the luxury blaze that's going up and down the country, haven't you?
We did watch the Forest game on it. That important Forest game. Georgie Boyce, massive Forest fan. I think it's the only time I've ever seen her remotely stressed, actually. She's one of the coolest characters I know, but that was not a calm time for her on the bus back.
What was that? Was that the day they beat Arsenal?
Yes, the day they beat Arsenal, must have been.
It's going to be Thompson. This is going to be the 10th over. Notts required just over 10 and over. Thompson forces bowls, and Hales forces it into the offside. Thompson's first over went for 11. Notts will be looking for something similar here. Alex Hales, who wears 3 these days, with Shaheen Shah Afridi arriving at the club, and it was clearly very much part of his rider, as he wanted the number 10. 71 for one. Hales on 39. Hales on 43 because he's blasted this over extra cover into the gap out there and gets himself a boundary. 75 for one and into the 40s. You thought perhaps Afridi might come and number one. You've had to be a star player to get number one, haven't you?
I wouldn't know, yeah. You got to open the bowling, haven't you? Or open the batting, I reckon.
How did you get number one?
I asked for it. How do you think I got it?
Well, because potentially they could have been allocated in alphabetical order. Couldn't they?
It would have been me if that was the case.
Well,
it's not a football team, though, Dave.
Thompson bowls, and this is dropped on the leg side by... Right, they both ran 1 and a third, and then decided not to go for that second run, and as Hales turned, his feet went from underneath him, and he's a big man to go crashing to the ground, but he's okay, and he did get back. 76 for one. Monroe has 23. This partnership worth 61, and Yorkshire will be desperate to break it. They're none from 3 so far. In other words, they've lost all 3 of their fixtures up to this point. They've not actually won a game since last August. Next ball driven by... Well, he sent it bobbling down to the far end. You wouldn't exactly call it an aesthetically pleasing drive. But Yorkshire, they haven't got off to a particularly good start in the Championship. They've been undone by a fantastic run chase by Leicestershire at Headingley in their opening game, and they went down to Bristol where it rained for 4 days. They were on top at Hove, and the last day was washed away, so a mixture of bad luck and 1 or 2 other little things have gone against them as Hales takes a single. 78 for one, but they've not won a cricket of any form since last August. Maybe tonight will be the night. Notts require 105 more from 61 balls. It's not too long ago you would say that was a chase that you were unlikely to get, but with Hales and Monroe going well, Notts will fancy their chances. Thompson bowls to the South African-born Kiwi. He chops it to backward point, and there's no run. And at the halfway stage,
Notts Outlaws are 78 for 1. Alex Hales 45. Colin Munro 24. The man out, Joe Clark. He was caught by the wicket-keeper, but it was anything but a regulation wicket-keeper's catch. He went for a big mow off David Wiesler, and the ball went a mile high before coming to ground. That was in the second over. At that stage, Notts were 15 for 1. They're 78 for 1. More thoughts from Grace Ballinger. Then to pick up commentary, it'll be Colin Fry.
Yeah, as you say, Munro and Hales going very well here. Just as a reference at this 74 for 2. Outlaws now 70, so relatively in the balance.
It's close, isn't it? Revis to continue from the Radcliffe Road end, just dabbed out onto the onside by Hales. Does his own fielding. Always, when it's a close game like this, always intrigued by the DLS par scores, which are always displayed on the big Batman scoreboard at the far end, at the pavilion end here at Trent Bridge. And for about the last 4 overs, Notts have been about exactly where it would need to be, but it tells you, I mean, we're not going to, I don't think there's any planned anyway. This is heaved at by Munro, and that's well, it's not a fine catch. I thought it was. Diving in, a very difficult chance actually. It just died in front of the fielder at a deep backward square, and he dived forward. I thought he'd taken a very good catch, but then as he got up, the ball was still on the ground, and gone through for a single. Munro on to 25, and Notts 80 for 1. This next one from Hales is driven down the ground and 4 over long off, well, through long off, over mid-off's head, and 4 more to Hales. He moves on to 50 from 30 balls. Alex Hales, he's had to bide his time a little bit, but he's found his way up to another T20 half-century. Such a dangerous batsman, and he's on to 50 as Revis is ready to bowl his next ball to Hales. He's trying to help this one away down the onside, but it's called a wide as he sort of got halfway through his shot and then decided to stop. Took the wide. 50 again for Hales.
Chanceless, and that's back-to-back in successive days for Alex Hales, and he's very capable of running away with it here for Notts.
85 for 1, and this next one is steered out square on the offside, and running round from the towards the point boundary, and that means that Hales has to settle just for 1 this time. 86 for 1. Hales on to 51. Yeah, that DLS par score, that 4 from Hales has now got Notts ahead of it, but only just. 82 is where they should be at the moment. They're 86 for 1, but as I say, for the last 3 or 4 overs, ball by ball, it's been exactly on the Notts score just about. Here's Revis again into Munro, who's chopped this one into the ground, and it goes through to the wicket-keeper. He looks furious, Munro, as I swish with his bat, a swipe at the turf with his bat.
God, you don't know what he's going to do next here, do you? I quite enjoy it. I've never seen him react this way before, I don't think.
Clearly feels he's missed out on a few here tonight. 86 for 1. He's back facing Revis again now, and he's clubbed this one down the ground, and he's not bothered running after it. Again, just a couple of bounces before it clatters into the Radcliffe Road stand advert boards down at the front of this towering stand. It's 4 this time to Munro. He's on to 29 and exactly a run a ball. Hales on 51, 11 overs in. Notts are 90 for 1. They still need over 10 and over as they chase 183 to win.
Yeah, another dismissive shot by Munro. That should have settled him a little bit. He's just flat batted it and timed it so well, and as you say, didn't even bother running. He's going well here, and he doesn't need to be frustrated. He's batting alongside arguably one of the best T20 batters in the world here, Colin, and Alex Hales is going, he just needs to kind of stick around with him, because if these two stay in for another 5 overs, you sense the game's won for the Outlaws.
That's the voice of Grace Ballinger with us here on BBC Radio Nottingham tonight. Also listening on 5 Live Sports Extra as Jaffa Chauhan comes back into the attack for Yorkshire. Went for 13 off his first over, and it included a couple of fine shots from Alex Hales as well, who is facing Chauhan, who's bowling from the pavilion end. Stiff breeze flag at the top of the pavilion is standing out proud from its pole as this one's played out to extra cover by Hales, and there's just a single.
Do you reckon the leg spinners come on here to try and buy a wicket?
They need something from somewhere, don't they?
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad decision.
Here is Chauhan again, a reverse sweep attempt from Munro. There's an appeal from Chauhan for LBW. Nothing doing from umpire Steve O'Shaughnessy. Wicketkeeper Johnny Tattersall sort of joined in a bit half-hearted and a bit late once he saw his bowler appealing. And this next one is really clubbed by Munro. He's got hold of that. Where's that gone? Into, I think, about the back row of the seats in the pavilion at the far end of the ground. That's a big hit from Munro for 6 more for Notts. He's on to 35 and Notts 97 for 1. And they're going to have a look at the ball when they've retrieved it, I think. Big shot from Munro.
Went a long way, that.
Got the ball back. Chauhan's got it in his hand again, and he gives this one a bit more length and backs up. Munro has to just nudge this out onto the onside, and they go through for a single. 98 for 1. 2 balls to come. Notts needing to go along at about 10 and over at the moment. They've got 8 from this one so far, with a couple of balls to go. And Hales back on strike. And again, there's a little appeal as this one goes through to the wicket-keeper. Tattersall stood up to Chauhan, and ball clatters into his gloves, but nothing on it from Hales. Has to be a good ball to beat Hales like that, though. Here he is again, Chauhan, and this is nudged by Hales up towards mid-wicket. And they go through for single. End of the over, 99 for 1, so Notts didn't quite get their 10 off the over. They got 9. 12 overs gone, 8 to go. And Notts 99 for 1, needing 183 to win. But with all those wickets in hand, Grace, you fancy that Notts, especially with these 2 batsmen now in, they are back where they spent most of the Yorkshire innings, and that's firmly in control.
Yeah, that is absolutely what they do, look in control, and I don't think that was a bad over from the young leg spinner at all. He's got to try and attack, he's got to try and take wickets. He's bowled one slightly too full and it's gone for 6, but easily could have been caught on the rope, and I think his captain will be happy with him. He's done what he needed to try and do, and although it wasn't successful, it easily could have come off, and yeah, they need to take wickets here, the Vikings.
So they brought David Visa back. He bowled his first 2 overs early in the innings from the pavilion end. He's coming on from the Radcliffe Road end now. 1 for 16. Counted for Joe Clark early on, just the 2nd over of the night. Visa running away from us and bowls now to Hales, and he's got a wicket. Hales edges him to backward point, and Visa gets his wicket, his 2nd of the night, and Hales is gone. Big moment in the game, big moment for Yorkshire. Hales goes for 53 and Notts a 99 for 2. It's Luxton who takes the catch, and Hales goes for 53.
That's a very impressive innings from Alex Hales. 53 off just 35 deliveries. You'd think that he'd hopefully done enough here for the Outlaws and set up the innings as he receives a loud applause from the Trent Bridge supporters, but it's probably one of his first loose shots, and unfortunately he has to go. But it does bring 23-year-old Matthew Montgomery, recently graduated from not just playing in the county championship but also into the white ball side, and he's scored some runs recently. He's looked in good form, so it'd be a great time for him to step up here and win the game for his side.
Well, he's had a good start, hasn't he, to his T20 career, into the side this season. And making a big impact. Montgomery took a wicket earlier on as well for Notts tonight. And he comes in now with Munro at the other end on 36, with the top two now back in the pavilion. Joe Clark early on for 8, Alex Hales now for 53. And Montgomery has not hung about in his innings so far in this season's T20, with Munro going well at the other end as well. Here's Visa into Montgomery, who steers this one round just beyond the square leg umpire. Chauhan comes in and fields, deep square leg, and Montgomery quickly off the mark. But now you'd expect Munro to take on the kind of senior role, if you like, in the partnership, already on 36.
Absolutely, yeah, and that singles brought up the 100 for the Outlaws. After 12.2 overs, they require 83 from 46 balls.
Visa into Munro. He's played this one into the ground again. Bottom edge, squirts out square of the stumps. And Tattersall, the wicket-keeper, runs round to field. It's another one that Munro might feel he missed out on, although this time there's no real histrionics from the batsman.
Maybe he feels he needs to calm down now as he takes the leading role at the crease with Matthew Montgomery.
Visa into Montgomery, who's just nudged this up towards the man at mid-wicket. It was uppish, and Chauhan runs around the boundary after it evaded that man at mid-wicket. Jaffa Chauhan, in the end, with a despairing dive, got his hand to it but couldn't stop it from going for 4. At the start of all of that, David Visa had his hands on his head because that only just evaded Jordan Thompson up inside the circle at mid-wicket. But once it had, there's a big gap in behind him, and Jaffa Chauhan couldn't make it up, and it's 4 for Montgomery. In comes Visa again to Montgomery, who's just defending this one after all that excitement from that last ball. He could very easily have been caught. As it was, he ended up with 4.
I think so, but I don't think it was too close to Jordan Thompson. I think I'm going to give Montgomery the benefit of the doubt there and say he's guided that, and wasn't an extravagant shot. It wasn't out there, but he knew where the gap was and he found it. He got full reward for it.
It might have been just the angle that we were looking at. I also went from the bowler's reaction, but maybe that was just because it was a little bit uppish. This one's played again by Montgomery, round to Chauhan, who's at deep backward square, and runs in and does a better job of fielding this one and hurls it into the wicket-keeper. That's the end of the over. 13 gone, 106 for 2. Montgomery wasting no time, as we said earlier that he hasn't so far. He's up to 6 quickly off 4 balls. Munro 37. But that run rate has crept up to 11 and over at Notts Knee.
It has, yeah, and with the main man out, Alex Hales, it just looks that little bit more difficult. You hope that Colin Munro will have to step up and play a key role here. Many batters left in the shed to come, but it's not easy to come in when you need 11 and over, especially if there's not a set batter alongside you.
They brought Don Best back. He's going to bowl out here. This is his final over. He started the innings for Yorkshire. 0 for 17 from his 3 overs so far. And he's bowling to Montgomery, who edges him wide of the wicket-keeper, and that's going to run away all the way down in front of us for 4. And Best stands with one hand to his face and the other one folded across his chest, and he can't quite believe it. Tattersall couldn't believe it as well as he saw it. Just almost, it was almost edged so that it kind of curled around the wicket-keeper who was standing up, and then it ended up going straight behind him for 4. Genuine edge. This is a reverse sweep that he's missed, and it goes through to the wicket-keeper this time. 110 for 2.
I couldn't give him the benefit of the doubt that time, could I? I don't think that one was genuine.
It was. Heart-in-mouth moment for Montgomery. Best could not believe it. Here he is again. Montgomery this time, though, has got hold of that, and he's sent Best for 6 into the Fox Road stand. Fairly flat 6, but he's got hold of it. There are 2 fielders on the ropes out on that leg side. Deep backward square and mid-wicket, but he's bisected them, and it's gone into the second row of the Fox Road stand for 6. Montgomery quickly up to 16, and this one's played out onto the onside, and Jordan Thompson goes and fields it on the boundary. It's another single for Montgomery, and Notts are up to 117 for 2. That was a fine shot for 6.
Could be my shot of the day, I reckon. Got him.
Best now to bowl to Munro, who's on 37, and he's dug this one off his toes up towards deep mid-wicket. Jordan Thompson misfields, and it means they can come through for 2. And it's 119 for 2. Don't think Don Bess will be entirely impressed with this over. Now, a genuine edge wide of the wicket-keeper. Then he's been clubbed for 6, then a misfield, and now Munro plays him away out onto the offside towards the point boundary, but only gets a single as he picks out the fielder on that boundary rope. It's 120 for 2 at the end of 14. 14 off that over, and those are the kind of numbers that Notts will be looking at over these next few overs, just to make the final few a little bit less stressful.
But Charlesworth will exit the ground, having made a great impact. A bottom edge just slid across him. A disappointing way to go out after timing the ball so delightfully over the last 15 minutes. 52 are the best of just 20 balls.
But not before Ben Charles.
Gloucestershire are flying high. 3 overs remaining. Can they get this up near that 190 mark? They've got the right boundaries for it. 65 at the river end, which is what he'll be aiming for here.
Sam's coming on round the wicket to try and tighten the line up a bit.
Over from the river end, number 95,
and reduce the swinging zone, the arc. Up against another left-hander, of course, in Bracey. His first T20 game of this season's campaign.
Well, it's an exciting time to come in. You have no other option but to have fun and ride the wave that we just saw.
And he's not wasted any time as he picks that one up for 6 over deep square leg.
Well, we thought getting Ben Charlesworth out would bring a reprieve, but from ball 1, Bracey has plucked it off the hip and put it in the stands. Lovely use of the pace.
And he's not wasted any time as he picks of 600. You can enjoy the moment, can't you? He's gone high again. Paul Walter takes another one. Brace's innings is short. Not as sweet as he would have liked, maybe.
Well, the strike rate's not getting impacted whatsoever. 6 off 2, pretty good. But as we mentioned, he's got a licence to thrill there coming in at the end. Into the safe hands of Paul Walter.
Enjoy the moment. Gone high again. Danny Lamb on debut, signed a short-term loan deal. Takes another one. Gloucestershire out, so the first viewing for Essex and Gloucestershire fans. The bowler now with bat in hand. Balls left. target in your mind, George?
Well, I was hoping for 190 for the visitors here. Would be a really positive one, but T20s, if you can get over 180, 185, that's plenty of runs to play with.
Taylor just miscues that slightly. Good bowling from Sams. No way that the bucket hands of Simon Harmer was going to miss that one. And 2 wickets in this over from the Australian left armour, just changing the feel in many ways. Having seen so many runs come off Sam Cook's last over. 7 down for the visitors.
Yeah, it was a tough old innings. Jack Taylor couldn't quite get it going, striking it roughly 100.
Taylor
So
just miscues that slightly. Good bowling from Sam.
couldn't
No
quite
way.
get the timing right to long off there. So Sam strikes again. 2 in the over now for the Australian fast.
And the new batter for Gloucestershire, number 90, Marchand de Lanka.
Well, this will be interesting. Always a popular character on the circuit, Marchand de Lanka. And now he has licence to swing. Hits a hard ball.
Well, he would have thought he would have had his feet up not long ago, enjoying watching his mates smack it around the park, and all of a sudden he's out there.
Batted at 8 yesterday and just got 9 off his 4 balls.
A great character of the game, and that's a superb over. 2 wickets from it. Daniel Sams. Well done. It's 165 for 7.
2 for 8 from the Australians over there. It's going to be a left arm double pronged attack, because Paul Walter's going to come on and finish his spell from this end. And this is where Simon Harmer's confidence in Paul Walter and what he can bring has been obviously enhanced from what we saw from Walter. I can't remember, I don't think he bowled that much last season at all, but in the 100 we saw him producing a great variety of delivery, and Harmer obviously believes that now is the right time to hand him that responsibility with the penultimate over.
Yeah, well, Cook obviously went for a few off Charlesworth, but 2 very different batsmen at the crease now. But all afternoon, all evening, Harmer, the skipper, has shown a lot of change-ups, a lot of variety. Batsmen settle, a lot of these spells have just been 1 over spells, which I guess doesn't allow the batsman to get comfy too soon.
Well, it's all about the matchups, isn't it? And again, talking to Simon Harmer last week, I hadn't realised how much analysis is done with matchups. I'm big into my baseball, as you know, and that happens all the time. Well, I didn't realise it was quite as prevalent at cricket, and that is a big, heavy swing from the big South African. He'll have enjoyed that one.
Well, de Lanka has stood tall and absolutely pummeled that to the leg side. He's freed the arms and given that everything he's got. A tremendous strike so early in his innings.
It's prevalent.
Cleared the foot, as a lot of tail-enders do. And he's cleared it again. He's also cleared the rope. That's a huge 6.
That's gone out into Hayes Close. Somebody's going to have to go and find that, I think.
Well, well, well.
10 off 3. Marchand de Lanka, of course, entertained and impressed Somerset and Glamorgan fans in his time with those two counties now.
And he's cleared it again. He's also cleared the rope. That's a huge 6. The nursing homes were in danger there.
That's gone out.
As Walter takes the pace off it, but it's the same result. Dalunga goes bang. 2 6s, 2 balls. Gloucestershire on fire.
What is it about bowling from the Hayes close end? Because the last 2 overs, must have been 40 runs now, 45 runs. You know, Sam Cook went for a lot of his final over.
And Walter.
So Paul Walter is being put through the
takes the pace off it. Well, the boundary is 58 metres straight down the ground. Dalunga goes bang. Heading into the old nursing homes. And they've certainly cleared that with ease. And it looks as though the ball is yet to be returned as well. Dalunga, he won't want his momentum slowed down. 4-6-6 from the big South African. Talking to him before the game, he's still loving it. He wants to keep playing as long as he can. As long as his body can hold up, he will keep going. And why wouldn't you when you can hit maximums like that?
Good comeback. That's good bowling from Walter.
He certainly wasn't going to allow 3 on the trot. All of a sudden that 190 is looking very achievable.
You would think so. Certainly think so now. I wonder what Danny Lamb's got in his locker. Change of pace from Walter, gets the dot ball, but it's still an impressive inning from the batting side to get 18 off the penultimate over. They'll be happy with that, I would think.
Absolutely. One of the hardest overs to bowl is the 19th. It's when players really know to tee off and there's not that added pressure and almost pandemonium of the 20th.
Now this will be interesting. Daniel Sams is going to bowl the final over for Essex. Facing him is Marshawn Dalunga. In the 100 last year, Dalunga was kept out of the Trent Rockets by Daniel Sams. The sub-story, here we go. He's always got a smile on his face. You love it. You just love it. And he came in to the T20 campaign in that Middlesex game, came in for Safargo Hart. First appearance really since played the 4-day, I think it was against